Hey, sand in my boots. That's a new one. That is a new one. I appreciate everybody coming aboard here, man, as you always do. It is a football week. We are now 13 days out from the start of training camp in one of the most polarizing times in our great country. But as always, we start the program out. Big Sills, how you doing? All right, man. Do you know the Jets are 7 days from today? From starting out training camp? 7 days away. 7 days away from start of training camp for the New York Jets, who I think are going to be a playoff team this year. By the way, I watched a little bit of that Joe Schoen Hard Knocks last night. What a bullshit artist. He knew the cameras were on him. Hey, Saquon, let me tell you something. If I got a call and I was Saquon Barkley and I had that kind of ability and I still had that kind of pull in the NFL with my ability, ESPN just came out or somebody just came out and ranked him fourth as the fourth best back in the league. That's still somebody in the room. I don't care how you look at it. That's still some. When you're the fourth best dude in your position, you're somebody in the league. You're just not a guy like Cam Akers. You're just not a guy. You're somebody. So you kind of have some pull. And I'm paraphrasing here, and here's that clown of a general manager in New York. You know, Saquon, I think what we're going to do is we're going to see if, what your market value is, and we're going to let you go out there on the open market and just see what the value is. Now, he had spoken to his agent before he got on the horn with Saquon, so he already kind of had a precursor to what the conversation was. And then at the end of the conversation, that asshole in New York wanted this. Hey, you are going to give us a shot at matching it, or at least trying to keep you a New York Giant, aren't you? I would have said, fuck you. Top bidder gets big sills. You either want me or you don't want me. Oh, we're just wanting to see what the... Dude, my market value to an organization is what you think I'm worth. Not what the Eagles think he's worth. What do the New York Giants think I'm worth? Hey, Joe, what do you think I'm worth to you? You know what he basically said to Saquon Barkley? I don't know how valuable you are to the Giants. Hey, for the record, I heard Xander and the guys in the morning talking. I heard John McMullen talking in the morning. Hey, do you think it was the wrong move? No, but don't bullshit me. That's a bullshit GM. What is my value to you, Joe? When you start worrying about what a market value is for a player, that means you don't want him. CZ, thank you. You know, this is one thing that the Eagles do great. They have a value on their players, and they overvalue. So you had the best offensive player in your football team, and you didn't value him. You're going to give us a shot at matching, aren't you? I would have seriously said, fuck you. Sorry, dude. I'm not giving you any chance to match. Why would I? You've already shown me you don't want me in the New York Giants organization. Well, you said you wanted to be a lifetime Giant. Yeah, I did. Until you made it very clear you didn't want me to be a lifetime Giant. I mean, good God almighty. That's a guy who's not honest with his guys. Hey, Saquon, listen. We're going to try to make a bid for you. We're going to see and have, I mean, you can go on the open market, bud. You know, we're in the midst of trying to rebuild this thing. And, you know, we'll make a bid for you. And if we're competitive, I hope you can come back. We'd love to have you back at a decent price, but we'll see what that price is. Instead of this, hey, let's go find out what your market value is. Let's see what your market value is, and then, hey, you're going to give us a first crack at it, aren't you? Fuck you. Fuck you. You crazy? How about the New York Jets coming to the table with Hassan Reddick yesterday and saying, I don't know if we're open to giving him a new deal. Word is, they might give him a bump in pay. Okay. If I'm Hassan Reddick, all right, we're trying to get in the middle of the room here so we could shake hands. Right now, I'm at the doorway. You're at the back of the room. I want to get to the middle, kind of shaking hands. You want to bump me up to 18, 19 million? Okay, we could do that. I'm all right. I'm all right with that. Let's bump it up and pay a little bit here. So the Jets are open to that. I actually like it. That's Joe Douglas wanting to get to yes. The Giants didn't want to get to yes with Barkley. They didn't want to get to yes with him. Hey, you'll give us an opportunity, won't you? No. That ship sailed. Barkley, and what did Barkley do? He stayed in the division, and now you get to see his ass twice behind the best O-line in football. Okay. Hey, Joe, I'll see you in the Meadowlands. What a dick. I mean, hey, John McMullen was trying to tell me that general managers have honest conversations with people. I haven't watched one episode where Joe Schoen's been honest with one player. See what your market value is and give us a first crack at it. What are you, nuts? I'm taking best team, most money. And guess what, Joe? You ain't it. I served my jail term in New York. I'm going to go try to do something now and win in Philadelphia. How about that? I did my jail term in New York. Now I'm going to go and try to win some games. Well, he ain't getting 20 million plus, Hassan Reddick. But I'll tell you what I would do. You know the number that Bryce Huff got, that 17.5? I'd say this. Why don't you give me 17.6 just to make Howie feel a little bit more edgy? Then I'll go out and get you 20 sacks. And then we'll have another conversation at the end of the year. How you doing? That's where I'm going. Mark Holmes is going to join us at 3:30. Xander, we're going to move in the rotation. He is going to be the closer at 4:30 today. I don't believe we're getting Philly 500 on today. But I do want to throw this out because I asked Butch Davis today about Michael Parsons. Because I hear John McMullen talking all the time about a generational player. And he's one of the Dallas Cowboy guys that is negotiating a contract. By the way, here's some of the people that Butch has recruited. Ray Lewis, Jonathan Vilma, John Beeson, Warren Sapp, Cortez Kennedy, Ed Reed, Robert Quinn, Andre Johnson, Bryant McKinney, Willis McGahee, Clinton Portis, Frank Gore. I could go on and on. On some of the people that he recruited. He knows talent. Okay? Butch knows talent. And I asked him to give me his assessment. By the way, he's a 3-time Super Bowl two-time defensive coordinator that won a Super Bowl in Dallas and is a 3-time winner. Of course, he was a D-line coach in Dallas, so he's got 3 Super Bowl championships and a national championship with Jimmy Johnson and also with our friend Barry Switzer. So I asked him, you would think that this guy here, knowing the defensive person. Oh, by the way, let's not forget, Butch also recruited Sean Taylor. You know who Sean Taylor is? I hope many of you do. Because if you don't, you better Google him. If you don't know who Sean Taylor is, you better Google him. Because this guy knocked a punter out in a Pro Bowl. Okay? All right. So here's Butch Davis's, just so you know, right here. Okay. Can't show you his number. There's Butch. Okay. All right. This is what Butch says. Micah Parsons. And I'm going to bring this up with Mark Holmes. Here's his evaluation on a guy who was in the league when Lawrence Taylor was in the league. He gets great pressure on quarterbacks, really good on sacks. You know what, Xander? This goes to what Xander has been saying a little bit about defense today. And Butch says, I've got to change my mentality. Stay tuned. You never know what scheme is for him when they're asking him to play the run. Teams throw significantly more today than in the past. They may just want him to heat up the quarterback, drop into coverage. That's all they may be asking him to do. So you really don't know if they're putting an emphasis on him playing the run. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe they're telling him not to. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, more run plays, play action. Buffalo became more passing, 11 personnel significantly in the 2000s. Started becoming more of a factor in what changed the dynamics of defense. Remember how many teams played two tight ends? Redskins had two tight ends, sometimes three tight ends with max protection. Sometimes you can even watch a college game right now with four wide receivers, sometimes even five at times. Butch's mentality is that in today's NFL, he's the perfect prototype pass rusher. In the 90s and 2000s or early, he's not. And in the 80s and 90s, he's not. Because you had to play the run. What Butch is saying, this guy, Bryce Huff, might be a prototypical guy that is a guy that fits today's NFL schemes. You know what? I'm so in cement with my ways on what a linebacker looks like that he's right. Maybe Huff fits today's league. I don't care if he plays the run. It's not what I'm asking him to do. I want to wind him up, drop him in coverage a couple times, cover some tight ends and backs out of backfields, and bang on people. That's what Parsons does. Now, when some teams have an old school style of running the ball at him, the deficiency comes into play. Buffalo, too. Arizona, both did that to Parsons and ran him off the field. So, maybe Bryce Huff fits today's NFL. Okay? Hey, he doesn't fit in the 90s. You know, I brought this up on Aaron Donald. I never really thought Aaron Donald was a complete football player. I never did. He ran around blocks. He got in that three technique, first, second, third down, and just pass rushed. It didn't matter. He pass rushed on first and second down, taking himself out of play sometimes. But you know what would happen? This guy got great TFLs, and he got great sacks. He's a prototypical defensive tackle of today. Pressure. It's not two-gapping. That's what happened last year with Patricia. Butch says you got to kind of change the mentality on today because, hey, in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they threw the ball 25 times a game. They didn't throw the ball like they do right now, 50, 60 times. Man, 1 year, what was it, 2 years ago, Brady threw the ball 725 times. That's 3 years for guys back in the day. Completely different in today's NFL, completely changed what it was back when Aikman played the ball. Okay? So, does Huff fit today's league? Maybe. Please hit the like button, guys. We're trying to get to 200. Tua says maybe Huff will listen to our coaching instead of just chasing sacks. I personally think that's why he's here and Hassan Reddick's not. Because Reddick didn't want to listen. I only do what they tell me upstairs. Versus a guy who's coming in here and he's more willing to be coached. Okay? So Did it change my perspective on Bryce Huff's opportunity this year to be an impact player on that defense? A little, because I value Butch's opinion. I played for the man. I know the man. He's been my friend for 40 years. Never forget this. Holy cow. My wife was telling my daughter this story about my Cowboy exit. We're in a grocery store. I've told some of you guys this. I was in a grocery store in Capel, Texas. Xander, you'll dig this. In Capel, Texas. I had just, recovered from being sick. So I'm in the grocery store and we're getting food and there's Butch. I go right up to him. You know what he did? Aunt Betty, I'm sorry for the swearing. This is what Butch said. You motherfucker. You talked yourself off the Cowboys. How could you do that? I said, I was taken back. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, was sitting right there, told Danielle it's a true story. How could you do that? We told you to take a knee. You hurt your calf. We were going to keep you on the team. You know what ended up happening? You lost the Super Bowl ring because of your stupid mouth. We wanted you here. You talked yourself off the team. Butch looked me right in the face and went, I've never seen anybody dumber than that. And I was like, I walk out of the grocery store. My wife looks over at me, or girlfriend then looks over at me and goes, that's what went down? I go, yeah, they wanted me to get hurt and go on IR because I hurt my calf for the year. Howie Long told me, because that's a year-long injury to recover. They were going to pay me full pay, $250,000. And I didn't want to do it. Don't ask me why. I should have been in Dallas the entire time Jimmy was there. My wife told my daughter the story. She goes, it's true. It's true. So I was like, okay. All right. So, yeah. But I love the man because I played for the man. All right. We're going to do some fun stuff today here. Available free agents at positions. We're going to start with that one. Then we'll go into the guys on one-year contracts and how important it is for 2024. I put a list together of some guys that, as we get ready for training camp, I wonder if some of these guys are on the radar. Ego, Senor? Yes. Yes. Seals, what do you think of the Eagles using 4 corners and 1 safety in a package? Love it. Put the best guys out there? Sure. Sure. Exotic defenses, I am a fan of. I am a gigantic fan of exotic defenses. And I think Vic's the guy to create that kind of stuff. Vic is not quite Jim Johnson, but Vic has a lot of characteristics like Jim Johnson. Okay? I know, flexing. It was a tragic mistake. Tough love from Butch. Hey, man, I know. He's always given it to me. He's always given it to me. And he's been a friend ever since. Sent my daughter money all the time for college and such. Every one of those guys, Butch Davis, Dave Wanstad, Jimmy Johnson, are some of my closest friends to today. Because you know why? They saved my life. I don't know what would have happened. I have no idea. I was a very troubled kid, mentally. Very troubled kid. I had a great upbringing. It's not anything like that. Well, not early on, but I was a troubled kid a little bit. And that place saved my life. I'll never in a million years ever disrespect those men because they love me to this day. It's funny. You know you have a true coach in your life when the coach who treats you like he did when you were 17, 18 years old, treats you when you're 61 years old. Jimmy Johnson treats me the same way when I was 18 years old as he does right now when I'm 61 years old. Okay? So I owe those guys. All right. Here are some, I think I wrote down 11 Potential free agents, or excuse me, free agents right now that are still available that could help the football team in 2024. Hey, Xander, do me a favor. Type in the running backs that you had in 17 that you thought was so instrumental in the offense. And will we not agree? Those two running backs with LeGarrette Blount, was it a die? Were those the two guys, the kid from Miami? Was it a die and LeGarrette Blount that you had in 17? How instrumental do you think it was that Nick Foles was able to transition from Wentz into that starting role and keep that offense humming? And when they were making a transition, Blount and Ajayi. Okay, yeah, the kid from Miami, Jay Ajayi. That's it. That's right. I remember him. Okay. How important do you think that was in 17 when it came to the transition going from an injured Wentz to Nick Foles late in the year, like it did? Okay. I thought it was important because those guys were like, what were they? Like fire and ice. Red zone guy, 20 to 20 guy, right? Right? They were, Mr. International says Sills, very important. Heavy workload. That's right. Especially when they were making that transition. Okay, right? Milton Kid from Georgia, I want to see him run in preseason. Okay? I heard Xander talking about the running back position. I heard John talking about wide receiver 3. Let me throw some names at you here, okay? By the way, please hit the like button. I appreciate it. Justin Simmons. I think the Eagles need some help at safety. Would you entertain bringing him in? Last year, he was second team All-Pro, albeit he's 31. But it's safety, not corner. It's safety. There's a difference. Safety, not corner. Would you think of bringing him in? Played for Vic, knows the system, could be a great mentor to some of the young guys. Would that be somebody that you'd be interested in having? Or is it still, in your opinion, that's not worth taking reps away from the young guys? There is a conversation with that. Do you want to take reps away from young guys? By the way, wouldn't you rather have Justin Simmons back there than trying to move James Bradbury into a slot or trying to play him at safety? I would. You don't want any more secondary guys. I still think you need help at safety. By the way, real quick, before I go on, heard the guys talking about Reed Blankenship. He's gone. You know why? UDFA. What makes him any different than TJ Edwards versus some of the people they drafted? You let TJ Edwards go because he was a UDFA. Or Reed Blankenship's kind of a good player. You know, the people are hot and cold on him. They were hot and cold on TJ. Howie didn't keep him. Why? Because he kept the guys he drafted. Okay? Reed Blankenship is the next version of TJ Edwards. There's no place for him because they're trying to make places for people that they evaluated, analytic guys, scouting department, all those folks. Okay, hey, Blankenship blows? I don't know. He had like 90 tackles last year. Couldn't have been out. Well, then again, 90 tackles was because the linebackers and D-line got crushed. So those numbers last year were awful, actually, if you think about it. When you're 31st in pass defense and you had 90 tackles, you must have been chasing a lot. Justin Simmons, yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down on Justin Simmons. What do you think? Would you put him on your board of interest going into training camp? Or if you find out in training camp, maybe you need a little help. Would you put him on your board at least? Okay? Thumbs up. UDFA or not, if Reed becomes an elite player, you don't let him go. Yes, you do, Fly. You let TJ Edwards go. The Green Bay or the Chicago Bears have, according to some, the best linebacking core now in the National Football League. Did you know that? Led by TJ Edwards. You let his ass go. So when you say you don't let him go if he's elite, TJ Edwards is becoming an elite inside linebacker. Is he Roquan Smith or is he Fred Warner? No. But I'll tell you what, he's in the third tier. He's in the third tier. Or he's in the second tier. He's in the second tier. How about this one? Would you replace, if you were able to somehow move James Bradbury, would you take a look at Stephon Gilmore? I thought Stephon Gilmore had a really good year last year. Stephon Gilmore is a borderline Hall of Famer. Or do you want to keep giving the reps to the young guys? Plus, he played in the division. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Would you put him on your board? Stephon Gilmore. By the way, you don't have a player on your football team, except for maybe Slay, better than him. And you know what you have? Potential talk. I know who Stephon Gilmore is. I don't know who Quinyon Mitchell is, or Cooper DeJean, or Keely Ringo. I don't know who any of those guys are. Oh, I hear the word potential. You haven't done it. I know what Gilmore's done. 3 years ago, the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. And he had a good year last year. Graded well. Actually, if you think about it, I thought he was better than Bland. That's a good question, Rocksteady. How much? You're right. How much? Marshall goes, no. Who's better than him on your football team? Watch this one. Hey, Big Marshall, who's better than Stephon Gilmore on your football team currently right now? See what Marshall says. You actually think Ringo's better than Stephon Gilmore? What a joke. How do you know that? How do you know that? I mean, your two rookies have never played an NFL down in the league. Slay, maybe. Okay. I don't know unless they play. Well, I'll tell you what. If you're waiting that long, Eagle fan, it's too late if they're not going to be able to be productive this year. Then it's too late. Comparing young players to end of the road guys. End of the road? He's a good football player. Wait, Forte goes comparing. No, guy. I'm not comparing young guys. I'm comparing people who can play in the NFL right now and could be an impact player on your team. Are you talking about 4 years from now, or are you talking about September 6th? I'm talking about September 6th. I don't give a shit about 2 years from now. I don't give a shit about 2 years ago. I care about September 6th now. And that's all you should be focusing on. It's September 6th in the first month of the season. Don't care about that shit down the line right now. Again, you're one of those football teams that has a window. Use it. Well, comparing players that are veteran guys versus young guys, what are we talking about here? Going into a season of unknowns again. I don't want that. Unknowns. I want to have as less unknowns as possible. Not a whole litany of them, like we did yesterday with 13 of them. You got about 13 or 14 unknowns. Justin Simmons and a guy like Stephon Gilmore closes that gap of unknowns. You got $27.7 million. Okay? Gardner Johnson, Simmons, Slay, Gilmore, Rodgers would be a Hall of Fame secondary. And then you start rotating the young guys in, and you're dropping Cooper in the slot position and you're moving guys around and you're deep back there, people be knocking on your door come the trading deadline. Hey, you want to get rid of one of these guys? And you increase the value of every single guy and you get rid of some of the old guys like Slay and Gilmore. And when you find out those other guys can play, you start exiting and beginning the exit process. You know the problem that the Eagles have right now in the secondary? Why James Bradbury's still on the team? They didn't have an exit plan. They didn't play any of their young corners or any of their young people last year in the secondary. And now here they are with unknowns going into the season and going into training camp. How do you go into training camp with not knowing what you have? Every time I hear the word potential, I want to throw up in your mouth. I want to throw up in your mouth. Hey, I think Keely Ringo will be. Jesus criminy. I know it's going to get dark tonight. How in the world do you know? You're trying to dismiss those unknowns. Okay? And like I said, you get Gilmore or you get Simmons in the secondary, in the safety spot, or if you get him in there at depth. And again, it does, depending on the price. All of a sudden, you find out that Keely can play. I'm going to deal him to a team that needs a corner. Someone will want Stephon Gilmore, especially if you're on a 4-0 Eagle team. And the guy's shown that he can still play. You might get some draft picks back for him. I mean, I thought he played great last year. I'll tell you this, in my opinion, I thought Stephon Gilmore outplayed Darius Slay last year. How about this one? Hey, Xavier Howard, safety, Dolphins. Now, I don't know what the relationship is with Howard and Vic. I think he was part of the conversation that said that he didn't believe Vic utilized him in Miami well enough. He's 31, too. Okay? Now, remember something. When you're this late in the year, I'm looking at guys who are available, not guys you're going to have to trade for. Because if you have to trade for somebody, you got to give up draft picks. I'm looking at guys you could sign right now that won't cost you anything but cash. Okay? Vic would have to give the okay for. I agree. I completely agree to that. Bob Brown says, Sills, everyone should be on the board if they can make us better. And they are willing to be a mentor, bringing guys in. That would be a priority too. It would be. And helping the kids grow up. Absolutely. I don't want another Slay and Patricia situation. Well, that was an organizational thing that the Eagles didn't give a shit about the relationship between Slay or Patricia. They made the call. They'll do it again. Cash money, homie. Wayne, correct. Okay? Gilmore technique is flawless. It sure is, man. He is such a great football player. How many defensive backs in the last 15 years can you name that have been the defensive player of the year? Let me think. Stephon Gilmore and who? How many corners have won that award? How many? In the last 10 years, can you name me a corner? Darrelle Revis in 15 years, probably Revis. Okay, so you're talking RTF about a Hall of Fame player in Darrelle Revis, right? So Stephon Gilmore and Darrelle Revis. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Stephon Gilmore and Darrelle Revis, and you're not interested in that. When you put their names in the same conversation with one another. Okay? Not 10. I think 15 they'll pick in. Sills, if he's good, where is that? If he's good, why has he been on so many teams? I agree, he's excellent. He's just crazy to me. Daniel, here's why. He's chasing cash money. New England didn't want to pay him. He goes to Carolina, they gave him a bag of money. Then he goes to Dallas. They gave him a bag of money. And right now he's waiting for an opportunity and a bag of money. Do you know what Stephon Gilmore needs right now? Another Super Bowl ring to punch his ticket to Canton. One more Super Bowl. He's in Canton. That'll be 2. I believe. I think he won 1, maybe 2 in New England. You have a 3-time corner, former defensive player of the year. You're going to Canton. Okay? You're going to Canton. I can't name you very many corners outside of Dan and some of the greatest players of all time. Gilmore in the slot? Holy cow. Can you imagine him back there with the communication and dealing with everyone back there, and then what the Cowboys are going to try to do, and he knows the personnel on the Cowboys, how smart that player is? Stephon Gilmore, I would take, I would take Stephon Gilmore and put him and have a conversation. Hey, we'd like to play you in nickel and in the slot. And this is what we're willing to pay. You get a chance to win a Super Bowl. We'll put you on a 1-year deal. We'll pay you X. What do you think? Would you not do that? And then you get to teach Keely Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell. Hey, dude, it's one thing to have Darius Slay teaching you. How about Darius Slay and Stephon Gilmore teaching your young guys? Holy shit. If D earns a game name, if D earns a name, it should be the unknowns. I like it, Jalen. Like the no-name defense down in Miami back in the day. Can you imagine having? Hey, guys, because I want to look it up and see if Stephon has won a Super Bowl. I think he has. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's won a Super Bowl. Stephon Gilmore.
According to Wikipedia,
let's see right here. Let's see what he has here. Let's see what his resume is. Here's Stephon Gilmore, 5-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, Defensive Player of the Year, led the National Football League in interceptions. On the 2010 All-Decade Team, National Football League, the New England Patriots All-Dynasty Team. How many interceptions does he have? INTs. He's got 36 INTs. This guy gets a couple more Super Bowls or gets another Super Bowl. He's going to Canton. He's going to Canton. You don't want that back there? Hey, look. James Bradbury is out of gas. And with the defense that they're going to ask some of these corners to play this year, control and contain, you just have to play center field. Seals, he was a second rounder out of South Carolina. I think so, Daniel. I didn't see the score. I didn't remember him at South Carolina. I don't believe he played for Holtz. He may have played for Musgrave when he was there at South Carolina. I don't remember. All right, let's move on. What about Howard? I don't know about Howard. He's 31. If I'm going to take the 231s, I'm going to go Justin Simmons. He was second-team All-Pro last year. Yannick Ngakoue, edge rusher. Would you be interested in that? Yannick was really good when he was in Jacksonville. Got up to Minnesota. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be a guy that has a lot in the tank list. But would that be somebody that potentially that you'd be kind of interested in for depth? Because you need to get another edge rusher, in my opinion. Yannick, maybe. On a cheap deal, yes. Yeah, right. Hey, by the way, remember something. Okay? With a guy like Yannick, A guy like Yannick, a guy like Calais Campbell would have been a really good fit. Now he's down in Miami. Situational pass rushing, nickel, absolutely. That's a guy you want to keep on the board, I would think, if you're Howie. Especially if you look in the exhibition season and you're not getting a lot of pressure, right? This guy here, I'm just throwing him out. I'm not saying he's somebody you guys would be interested in or Howie would be interested in. Jamal Adams. He's 28. He's played 22 games in the last 3 years. He was a Pro Bowler in 2021. Safety, and he's 28. 22 games in the last 3 years. Whew. Man, he got that bag of money when he went over from, I think, the Jets to Seattle. And, man, he had one good year up there. And then after that, he just absolutely just fell on his face. I saw games last year where I thought he was a healthy scratch. Rather have Simmons? I think so too. Okay. Gilmore played with Spurrier in South Carolina. Wow, back that far, huh? I forgot Steve coached that long. Okay. RTF goes, I love Adams, but Adams was great in New York with the Jets. And I think 2 years in Seattle, he was good, right? Hey, Bob, I'm not moving Jamal Adams to a linebacker. That's not how – this ain't junior football or college football where you're moving guys to absolutely different skill sets. It's one thing to put a guy in a slot or in safety because it's kind of still in the same room when it comes to playing defensive back. It's another thing to take a defensive tackle and turn him into a linebacker or a linebacker into a DT or a safety into a linebacker. I'm not doing that. I'd rather go get a linebacker. Okay? This is an interesting one. These are potential signs by Howie as your 13 days to camp on some areas of your football team that you're a little light. How about this one? Quan Alexander. Now, I know he had a torn Achilles in 2023. He was with the Steelers. The only reason he's not with the Steelers is because he got hurt last year. He's a good football player. He'd be a better linebacker than anything you have inside right now. Would that be somebody? Now, again, you got to check his health. You might get him on a cheap deal. Would that be something to sign? Because isn't Quan Alexander the kind of guy that Howie would sign? He's coming off an injury. You get him cheap. And he was good in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. Right? Quan Alexander? Now, again, Achilles injury. Where is he? I mean, that's the reason he hasn't been signed, or he would have been by now. Right? Are you right? I like Quan for sure. How did Quan look in 2022? That football team kind of struggled defensively. If you remember, they had a nuclear meltdown a little bit in 22. I'll always say this to you too, Sam. One of the things that organization has struggled from, it wasn't really losing Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell. In my opinion, it was the paralyzation of the linebacker that they had, Shazier. When Shazier got injured, that defense went to shit. He was the cover 2 linebacker that Mike Tomlin loves to have in that defense. He was kind of like a Derek Brooks. And when you lost that guy and you lost that Ryan Shazier type player, I think that really hurt that Pittsburgh defense, and they're still trying to overcome that. And I think Quan was pretty good. I mean, I don't listen. Normally 9 months. Is that what you're saying, Jalen? So he got hurt last year. He should be ready for training camp, depending on what kind of reps you want to give him in training camp here. Some guys are never the same after Achilles injuries, especially as you're growing older. It's a true comment. Hit up. So again, if Goddard gets hurt, just look at games where Goddard was out. I know every time Goddard's out, the middle of the field seems to be erased from the game plan. And there's no doubt that the tight end position has to be something that they would maybe need to address when it comes to getting depth. And some of the guys that potentially are still out there. There are some guys that are out there. Okay? There are some guys. All right. How about this guy? Now, again, these are guys that are walking the street waiting for the right opportunity. Okay? These are guys waiting for the right opportunity. How about Carl Lawson? Jets, edge rusher. This is really weird. So, last year, he only played 24% of the snaps for New York last year. You want to know how many sacks he had? He only played 24% of the snaps. And get this, your guy that you signed, Bryce Huff, had 10 sacks. How many sacks did he get, and what was his percentage of games that he played? No, he actually had 7 sacks. He had 7 sacks last year, playing 24% of the New York Jets' defensive snaps. Would that be somebody that you're looking at where you would go like this? Situationally? Carl Lawson, is he a Clemson guy? I think he's a Clemson guy. So you play 24% of your snaps. What was the percentage of snaps that Bryce Huff played to get 10 last year? This guy played less than him and had almost as many sacks. And if you want to go with John McMullen's success rate, he had a higher success rate than Bryce Huff a year ago. Right? Both guys didn't start. I think that tells me a little bit about Bryce Huff again. So Bryce Huff played just a little smidget more, had a little more production. This guy played less and had almost as many. So Mike says that, what's his name, played like 35 to 40% of the snaps and had 10. He played 24% of the snaps and had 7. I don't know. That makes me a little nervous about that 10 sack number that Bryce Huff put up, doesn't it? Right? Makes you a little bit. Hey, there you go, Mr. International. That's a really good take right there. I love that. I love this take, Mr. International. I do. That's a good take right there. Carl Lawson could fill the Chris Long role. I like that. That's good. Yes. How about this one? So you're saying we got the wrong Jet, Eduardo? No. I'm saying that a guy did as much playing less on the same unit. That doesn't give you pause? Eduardo? Both didn't start. One guy played less, had just as many sacks. He had 7, he had 10. He played 24%, the other guy played 40%. Both didn't start. That don't make you pause a little? At all? Nothing? Okay. Right? Mr. International, I'd grab both. There's 7 sacks that you could pick up right there for your edge rushing that you lost with Reddick. So if you pick up 10, you pick up 17 sacks with Carl Lawson and with Bryce Huff, you pick up 17 sacks. Last year you had 11. So you basically cover the position with 2 dudes. Great. Why wouldn't you do it? Depending on what he wants. And quite frankly, I thought he fell out of favor with Robert Saleh for some reason, because there were times there was just a disconnect between those two. So I don't know if he's a problem in the locker room. Could that be an issue? Why? Is there a health issue? I don't really know how old he is as well. I can't think he's that old. Is he an 18 guy, 2018? So I don't think he's that old. Okay, so could it have been something off the field? Because the Jets liked him, and all of a sudden, he fell into the doghouse with them. Still played 24% of the snaps and had 7 sacks. I consider it, knowing BG's getting older. By the way, you get a guy like Carl Lawson in there, that helps Brandon Graham's sack totals. That would help his production. Hey, the more help Brandon Graham gets, what you don't want is Brandon Graham playing a shit ton of tackles and a shit ton of plays late in the year. I want Brandon Graham in the playoffs. I don't want Brandon Graham the first week against Green Bay. I need him. If my football team is going to be where everyone says it's going to be at the end of the year, I want Brandon Graham at the end of the season when I need him most in the playoffs, when I need to get quarterbacks on the ground. Steelers, without a true defensive end for 34, we will need to throw bodies at the position and keep everyone fresh. According to John McMullen and Xander, they're going to be playing more of that 43 look, and especially when you're a nickel. Remember something, 71% of the time, most of the teams are playing in nickel now, and they got a bare front. So you're going to see more forefront personnel in today's NFL. Just like what Butch said. Butch told me today, hey, seeing 34s, you're not going to see a lot of that because most teams line up in third down personnel, even on first and second down nowadays. So you're going to see more of that bear look. You're going to see more 5 front stuff. Emmanuel Ogba is the most logical signing we could make, in my opinion. Anyone else is ridiculous. I think that's the kid from Miami. Is that right, Marshall? Somebody like that? He's from Miami, right? That's the kid. I like him. I do. If Lawson only played on passing downs, Huff was playing snaps against the run. Snap count can't be misleading. He was graded as one of the worst linebackers in the National Football League, the Wise Tribe, when it came to playing the run. So I hope not. Because if that's the case, Bryce Huff was getting murdered last year. Look at his PFF ratings, especially the last 3 years. He's been atrocious. He can't play the run. He's not very good at it. Okay, so I'm hoping that he wasn't in on third down. I mean, on run plays, first and second down, because he's just not very good at it. Okay, I mean, especially when it comes to also covering tight ends and backs, he's also got a low rating. Here's another one. What about Hunter Renfrow? I believe in 2020, he was a Pro Bowler. He's 28 years old. Would that be somebody you'd like to log in at wide receiver 3? Put him down there? Wouldn't cost you a lot. Hunter Renfrow? Right? Joseph says no. You want to go with some of the younger guys and unproven guys. Okay. Renfro's had a history of the last 2 years of injuries. Hey, Mike goes, Renfro's been irrelevant for a bit. Mike, let me ask you this. How relevant have the Raiders been in the last 3 years since Gruden left? Mike, how relevant have the Raiders been, in your opinion? How relevant? Renfro's is a slot. Well, you don't have a slot guy. You don't have a slot receiver. Now we're going to get to an interesting conversation. I heard Xander and John McMullen talking about this. What's your guys' take on Kenny Gainwell? Hope again, there we go, Jack. Hopefully Anias. I don't want hopefully anything going into camp. Anytime you're using the word hope and prospect, you don't know what you're talking about, nor do I. But when you're having quality people that have played in the league and been Pro Bowlers, these are people that are helping you today. Hunter Renfrow is not part of the future of this team. He could be part of the now of this team. Jack, I'm not ripping you. I'm just saying. I don't care about Anias Smith right now, really. I need a guy that's going to help me win against Green Bay. Gainwell is a normal player. Okay. How about this? And the Eagles are known for this. How about Dalvin Cook? He's 2 years removed from a 1,200-yard season, and that whole thing fell apart in New York last year. He made the Pro Bowl for a fourth time 2 years ago. Not asking him to be the lead back because you got one. You signed him to a league minimum, and your running backs are Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley. I'm not sure that's you did Penny last year, and you never used them. Dalvin Cook at least has had a successful career. Penny never did. He was a colossal failure and bust since he was taken in the 20s by Seattle. He never lived up to expectations, and the Eagles signed him to a $3 million deal. And what you would have with Dalvin Cook, you would have Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley. Is that bad? Sills, but Dalvin Cook is not a feature. I know. Neither was Ajayi. Neither was LeGarrette Blount. But if I can find the right tandem backs with Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley, I'll tell you. Was Penny bad? Was Penny that bad that he couldn't get any playing time? I don't buy it. He was a force when he was never a force in Seattle, ever. Name me a year he was a force in Seattle, ever. He had 6 yards of carry. Yeah, when he played. Availability is part of the evaluation. He never gained 1,000 yards. Chris Carson beat him out, who was a fifth-round draft choice his entire time in Seattle. And that guy was a first-round draft choice out of San Diego State. He was a failure. He was an absolute bust. Can't pass protect. Had mediocre hands. I mean, don't make something up about a player that wasn't true, because he wasn't that. These cheap players hold up other players we draft. Wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me that you'd rather have Will Shipley play over having a guy like Dalvin Cook on your team? That I'll disagree with. Will Shipley was okay at Clemson. This is the National Football League, where that guy 2 years ago was removed from a 1,200-yard year. Last year, didn't have a good year, obviously, with the Jets. You know, last year's the only year he didn't gain 1,000 yards in the last 5 years. You know that? I want to double check that, because I don't want to throw false intel out there at you there. Okay, it may have been 2 years. It may have been Dalvin Cook's stats. Dalvin Cook's toast. Yeah, but Barkley's not. Okay. Let's see. And Dalvin Cook, in my opinion, he's the same age as Barkley, but he's cooked. Okay, last year was the first year that Dalvin Cook did not have 1,000 yards rushing. By the way, Dalvin Cook has had a better career than Saquon Barkley playing in Minnesota. 1173, 1259, 1567, 1385. What are you talking about, guy? Put him on that team back there, and he backs up Barkley. How you doing? Still's exactly what if Dalvin is healthy and put him with Saquon. That's like Westbrook and Buckhalter on steroids. Absolutely, Jack. Barkley is that drifting baby mama that has a whatever. Wasn't Cook the number 2 for the Jets last year? I believe so. But remember something. The Jets offense was one of the worst offenses in pro football last year. And he asked for his release. Penny had 346 yards in 5 games. 2022, he's a good RB2. 10-5 carries a game. He can't do it. 346 yards in 5 games. And then he missed the rest of the season. That's a good back. Mr. International, I do too. I blame the Jets. Okay? Yeah. I think he had 400 yards rushing last year on Carolina and the Jets. I think he may have maybe 800 yards or something like. Did he have like something like that? Or 400 yards? I forget what it was. You're trying to tell me you wouldn't put a 28-year-old Dalvin Cook in the backfield, and you got a 26, 27-year-old Barkley back there now, and this guy's had a better career than Saquon Barkley. I don't care what you say. His numbers dictate it. Dalvin Cook has had a better career. Playing in Minnesota. I know. Well, Minnesota was better than the Giants. Wow. Outside of last year, it's the first year in 5 years he didn't have a grand. Good question, Wayne. How much? Hey, if you're willing to bring in a broken down jalopy and a broken down horse like Rashad Penny, why not give a guy an opportunity who's actually had a career and a 4-time Pro Bowler? And he's still 28. We're not talking about a 32-year-old running back here. Okay? Money's the kicker. It is. Wayne, love this shopping. Me too. Because these are guys you don't have to give up draft equity to. You don't have to give up draft equity. All you have to do is write a paycheck. And that's one thing the Eagles are not shy on. Okay? They're not shy on it. Didn't the Giants beat Minnesota in the playoffs? What's that got to do with Barkley and Dalvin Cook? Is that you trying to tell me that because Derrick Henry played on a shitty Tennessee team, he's not one of the greatest backs we've seen in the last 15, 20, 30 years? Come on, man. What's that got to do with them? Yeah, let's get the likes up, guys. I'd like to get to 100 likes if we can, please. By the way, bottom of the hour, Mark Holmes is going to join us. I don't think Philly 500 is going to join us today. Cook is just 28 years old also. Yep. Oh, okay. Mr. International says, meaning Cook had a harder hill. Okay, yeah. Alvin Kamara, you'd have to trade for because he's still under contract with the Saints. Roster space is limited? With who? Don't put one of those shitty wideouts you got. Put them on the practice squad. I want ball players that can help me. Hey, do you want the RPO back in or do you not? And if you're not going to run the RPO, you better get a little better at the running back position and deeper. Don't you think? Like Xander said today, well, you're not going to run the RPO. Well, you better get a little deeper, like you were in 17 at running back. Let me throw another guy at you. How about Kareem Hunt? Remember, these are not starters. I'm not talking about starters here. I'm talking about people who can help your team in limited areas of your team when it comes to depth. Okay? This is not frontline guys. I'm not asking somebody to come in here and get 235 carries a year. Still, same fans was begging Philly to sign Cook last year. I don't think there's anything wrong with Dalvin Cook. I think he was in the wrong shitty situation last year. The New York Jets. Do you think anybody played well last year on that Jets team? And plus, they had a really good running back that they like. What's that guy? Breece, what's his name? Breece Hall. They love that kid up there that they drafted. They should. He's good. We have 4 running backs already. Daniel says you have 4 running backs with Saquon Barkley, Kenny Gainwell, and Will Shipley. I say you got 1. You have 4 running backs? I say you have 4 people with 1 running back there. You know, you're looking at the roster and going, we got guys there already. No, you don't. Oh, no. You do have guys there, but you don't have talent. Who's Kendall Milton? Kendall Milton, Dalvin Cook. No, thank you. Baltimore should re-sign Cook, but I'll take him on the Eagles. That would mean Jalen would have to be a drop-back quarterback. Well, isn't that what they're trying to do, disciple to him? Isn't that what they're trying to do to him? He's a GA running back with 2 bad. Dalvin Cook doesn't have 2 bad knees. That's not true. And like I said, last year was the first year in 5 years he didn't have a grand, and he's only 28. And one more time, he's had a better career than Barkley. There's no getting around it. More Pro Bowls, more 1,000-yard seasons, healthier. How much? I don't think it'd be a lot. I watched Milton's tape at Georgia. The guy is north and south running back, good feet and field vision. Glad he was a great running back in college. Sure it helped them win a couple national titles. I'm talking about winning the NFC East with NFL Pro Bowlers. That's some project guy that you took in the 10th round. How about Cam Akers? Hey, let me ask you something, too, about this Kenny Gainwell guy. How many people believe that the offensive line in Philadelphia is pretty good? What do you think? Pretty good, right? Top 3? What do you think Kenny Gainwell will do with the offensive line in Carolina? Would he make the team? Wayne says, damn good. Hey, Wayne, would Kenny Gainwell make the team in Carolina playing behind that O-line? What do you think? He could never establish himself as being the guy. As much as the Eagles wanted him to be the guy, he could never establish. How do you not establish yourself behind that O-line? Like you guys are saying, you believe Barkley's going to come here and gain 1,300 yards. This guy Gainwell could not take the baton away from Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift. He's just been a dude. You put him on any other average O-line, he's cut. He's cut. You put guys like Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley behind that line, I don't know how you don't go like this. Whoa, let's see what this can be. Again, you know what the question is with Barkley? Can he stay healthy? It's not if he's not going to perform behind the O-line or not. It's going to be whether or not he stays healthy, right? Dalvin Cook doesn't have a health issue. He had a poor choice issue last year by going to the Jets. And remember, Minnesota moved off him. You know why Minnesota moved off him? Because they knew they had to pay Jefferson. And they weren't going to pay Jefferson $8 million, or they weren't going to pay Dalvin $10 million. Because they had to pay the receiver $35 million. They even moved off of Kirk Cousins, who just got $45 million. Think about what Minnesota did. Minnesota and Zicky Wilf are so cheap. They moved off of Cousins and Cook to pay Jefferson the money that he wanted. Now you got J.J. McCarthy, who looks like the next Tim Tebow. I don't think you'd have to pay him $6, Jack. I think you can get Dalvin Cook for what you paid Penny, $2.5 million a year ago. Gatson says Cousins blows. He's done more than your guy. As a pure passer in this league, Jalen will. It would be incredible if Jalen had the career that Kirk Cousins has when it comes to stat lines and economic wealth. We'll see if Jalen gets another contract like he got. Cousins has gotten 3 of them. We'll see. Don't have another bad year. You're paying Kirk Cousins $48 million, 37 years old. You think you're paying Jalen Hurts nearly $50 million at 37 years old? That ain't happening. That ain't happening. So if I were going to look at any one of these guys, I would look at, boy, I like that Stephon Gilmore. I'd have him on my board. Then you got to look at how much do I take away from the young guys. It's counterproductive in what I'm doing, my drafting. See, your linebacking core is not strong at all. You're putting a lot of pressure on your corners. Why? You have no pass rush. You're hoping, there we go again, that you get back to a little bit of 22. You're not going to have 70 sacks. The reason your secondary was so good in 22, because you were so dynamic up front. Well, you're not going to be there. You're not going to be around 70. By the way, it was fool's gold in 22 in the secondary. You weren't that good. How many teams do you think are going to be high in defensive pass defense when your team has 70 sacks and a high volume of hits on the QB? And think about this. Dalvin Cook to take the baton from Adrian Peterson, that's hard to live up to. Absolutely, man. I think he was an absolute great player up there. Yeah, your 22 pass defense was fool's gold. Your pass rush was elite. You had 70 sacks, second biggest number. The second biggest number in NFL history. Who can't play defense and pass defense when you've got the highest volume of quarterback hits and sacks, second in NFL history? Your shorts are the routes are shorter. You're playing everything underneath. Well, you don't have that affordability anymore. You don't have an elite pass rush. Here, you're hoping to get there. Well, there we go again. You're hoping. You're hoping. Okay? You're hoping. Gardner Johnson was elite. He was a playmaker because you had 70 sacks. Joseph, that all played into the 70 sacks and the high volume of pressure. Those guys were not special back there. Your front seven was. Your front seven was special. And an offense that couldn't be defended because you ran the pro-style RPO. Absolutely. Two things, man. You played field position, time of possession, and you had massive pressure on the quarterback. Your secondary was exposed, actually, in 23 once the pressure went down, was it not? You weren't that elite. You were 31st. That's why the drop-off was so significant. The drop-off was significant. Why? Because you're not really talented back there with Slay and James Bradbury. Those are the facts. Chills, we don't need SG. He's too old and could flex and handle the whole gang at one time. And not having to play at that shitty stadium. We'll see with Bart. Well, Barkley, I'm expecting because he's got a better O-line. I think they're both okay. Well, Joseph says that Jalen Hunt is going to be a star. Well, there you go again. I don't know. You got another unknown. You guys surely like taking the unknown and turning it into a positive, thinking that the guy today is going to be a star. See, I'm thinking about 2024. Okay? You're talking about something down the road. He might be. I'm talking about today. Okay? Sills, it doesn't help when you lose 9 starters. That's how you operate, though. Hood. Do you understand you have 27 players going into free agency next year? That's on your 53-man roster. Half your roster is going to be turned over. Did you know that? You've got 27 football players on your 53-man roster. Half your roster will be turned over. It's how you operate. Spike goes, I love the unknown. Well, that's why you have contending teams for Super Bowls and you don't. You're never right there always. That wasn't a set contending team last year. It was fool's gold at the beginning, exposed completely in the end. Internal bickering, poor decision-making by coaches, all played into it. Of course, it's organizational. There's no continuity. You'll never have it on your roster and in your coaching staff. There lies your problem. There is the fundamental issue with the Eagles. You don't have continuity in your coaching staff and you don't have continuity on your roster. You have it on one side of the ball, not the full 53. Kansas City, some of these other teams like Green Bay, Steelers are notoriously good at that, keeping balance in their 53. That's what made New England great. They weren't the greatest roster, but they had balance in their salary cap and in their roster. Eagles have no balance. Back to the dollar store, Howie goes. Right, next year you have 27 people that will be free agents out of 53 that are active on Sundays. What do you make of that? over half the roster will be changed out. All right. I got to take a timeout before Mark Holmes gets. We're going to talk a little Cowboys. I'm going to read that evaluation about Michael Parsons to him. Okay. Plus, by the way, we're also going to do this. We're going to take a look at those first year or those 27 free agents that are going to be in 2025. Please hit the like button. Mark Holmes is right around the corner. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Our friend Mark Holmes is going to join us. We're going to talk a little Dallas Cowboys with him. We're going to go back and forth. So that is your rival. And we're going to do that and talk to him. I'm going to bring up something about Dak Prescott here in a second. I don't believe we're getting Philly 500 here. Dude is talking about continuity, but wants the Eagles to get 13 free agents. Dude has no clue what he's talking. Who said I wanted you to get them? Get those guys. I'm telling you, you have more unknowns on your football team than any team going into this current season when we're talking about contending teams. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. Hey, will they be able to replace their center? Will they ever be able to replace the tackle they lost? The guy who's going to Canton. Will they be able to get a running game going? Those are all ifs and unknowns. The teams that have the fewest unknowns are the teams with continuity, my friend. This guy wants to play Will Shipley. I'll go get Dalvin Cook and put Dalvin Cook behind. If I were the Cowboys, hey, Dalvin Cook, he's 1 year removed from 1,000 yards. And he's 1 year removed from having 5 straight, and he's only 28. And he was on the shitty Jets in Carolina or wherever he was, and he demanded his release. He was in bad situations last year. And I'm not asking him to be a frontline guy. The Cowboys are asking Zeke Elliott to be a frontline guy. That's not going to cut it. Okay? That's just not going to cut it. By the way, I really appreciate it. About 1,000 people are watching us on Twitter right now. So we appreciate that. All the platforms, you guys are killing it. Thank you. Please hit the like button. Before I get Mark Holmes on here, maybe Mark can give us a little bit more insight here as well when it comes to Kellen Moore. Do you know that Kellen Moore has more pressure on him than any coach in the National Football League right now? You know why? He's being asked to turn around Jalen Hurts, and he's also being asked to save Nick Sirianni's job. What other coordinator do you know has that pressure on him? Think about what he's been hired to do. Nick Sirianni's future relies in the hands of Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore has wins. The quarterback looks like the guy he looked like in 23. He's leading teams to victories. You win the NFC East. That saves Nick's job, doesn't it? So he turns the quarterback around, saves the head coach's job. He's going to be a candidate. And he's not going to be in Philadelphia because some stupid owner like David Tepper would go, I'll take him. You just hired Dave Canales from the Tampa. I don't care. I'm the third richest guy on the planet. Hey, Frank Reich's got 2 years left, and I'm paying him $62 million to sit on the bench there in North Carolina and go play golf at Pinehurst. I mean, what does he care? What does he care? That guy's got a lot of pressure on him. Okay? He does. All right. Hey, by the way, just so Mark hears this, the Eagles next year will have 27 free agents in 25, all coming up on expiring contracts. And a coach, if he saves it, he saves the head coach's gig, which means what? He gets a job. We change the coordinators out again. Let's bring in Mark Holmes. They got their own issues there in Dallas when it comes to the coach.
You seem a little salty today.
Not salty. It's called conviction, my friend. Something that Cowboy fans don't know anything about is conviction. You know what conviction is?
Yeah, I know what conviction is.
Well, I know you do because, you go up to Vermont and you help old ladies across the board. You milk trees for sap and you do all that. I know, Mark. You're quite the fella.
What's kind of funny? I'm hearing you talking about the 27 free agents that you have next year and things. The Jalen Hurts situation where he's on the hot seat and everything else, and the coach who, it's up to the offensive coordinator to save his job and everything else. I don't think you realize what has happened in front of you.
Tell me.
You become the Dallas Cowboys. That's the shit that's going on right now is what we normally deal with on a weekly basis. When you hear Jalen Hurts getting trashed now by the media, that's the Dallas Cowboys quarterback all the time. Every year we always have 25 plus free agents every year that we have expiring contracts. Our coach is always an idiot and on the hot seat and everything else, and it's up to the offensive coordinator to save them. Your question about if Kellen Moore can save your head coach.
Am I wrong?
Oh, I mean, that's one way to look at it. He didn't save Jason Garrett.
No, Dave. He's been. I never said he was the right hire.
Mm-hmm.
I've never said that. I said that I think the guy on the other side is going to be the right hire.
The thing is, I think actually Nick Sirianni is probably in a no-win situation.
There's no question about it because Mark, if you're the Eagles, figure this out. If you're the Eagles and he does all those things and they win and they go to a divisional round, say
are they going to give Nick Sirianni credit?
Say they get beat. No, say they get beat in the NFC title game. Are the Eagles really going to allow another guy like Shane Steichen to walk out the building, or are they going to sit there and hire him and force Nick out or into another role into the organization? See,
yeah,
you're just going to go on that complete conveyor belt again? I personally don't think it here. Now, listen, I want to start this off with you on something that James Jones said the other day.
Oh, yeah.
On FS1. And also, he did it on Speak for Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
He said something about Dak Prescott, and they were talking about Jalen Hurts here. Now, I got to tell you something. You're right about one thing, and that is Dak Prescott gets more heat than any quarterback. Jalen Hurts is 2-3 in the postseason, albeit he's gotten to a Super Bowl. But do you know how many quarterbacks that are the top 10 quarterbacks that have winning records? There's only 2. Mahomes and Burrow. They're the only quarterbacks that have winning records in the postseason.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott's 2-5, albeit I get it, but he takes more heat than any other quarterback in the National Football League because he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the one thing that I will say is he's got 9 years in. You kind of know who the dude is. You know what I'm saying? He's 9 years in. Where are you going next year with him?
I hear what you're saying, but here's the thing. Is it Dak Prescott or is it the system that we are dealing with? If we were winning playoff games and doing great things without Dak before, and now all of a sudden we're not, then I'd say, okay, then it's definitely that guy because we used to do great things, but we ain't done great things for 29 years. And so here's the thing. Let me ask you this. Let's take Trevor Lawrence's playoff win. He threw 5 TDs, 5 interceptions, 4 in the first quarter where they were down 27.
And he's 1-1, by the way, for the
record. He's 1-1. So they were down 27-0 in the first quarter. Their defense only gives up 3 more points. They win 33-30, I think. So 5 TDs, 5 interceptions.
Come back on the Chargers.
Okay. So you look at that performance. And then you have Dak Prescott last year against Green Bay, 3 TDs, 2 interceptions, 400 yards. So was Trevor Lawrence's, because they won, to Shady McCoy's point, that, wins are all that matter. Was Trevor Lawrence's performance good and Dak Prescott's bad?
No.
Or were they both bad?
Those are team. This is what I think James Jones is referencing. I'm going to play this for you here, and I'm sorry the volume is a little low here, but I want to play this here for you. This was on Speak for Yourself, and I'm going to play this here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Better than them. I mean, this dude was 5,000 yards last year, led the NFL in touchdown pass. There's nothing Jalen Hurts except running the read option and maybe the tush push that he does better than Dak Prescott. And I like Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. But Dak Prescott, at this point right now in the National Football League, does everything better than Jalen Hurts at that quarterback spot. Does he win better? Is it a team goal or we're talking about a quarterback? That's
where it goes back to. Now, I'm not going to say he's played great in the playoffs, although he did retire Tom Brady. He did pretty good against Russell Wilson. He actually went toe for toe his rookie year with 3 TDs and 304 yards against Aaron Rodgers. But, when we don't have a linebacker and we can't stop the run, it's a team sport, bro.
You know what, though? And I think there's 2 arguments to this, and I think it does defend because you're not paid on winning Super Bowls in this league. Mm-hmm. And here, I want to play. I mean, my Xander just said it right. So,
why you seem stressed, G? Are we talking to player or are we talking to team success? The player, sir. There's nothing that Jalen Hurts does better than Dak Prescott at the quarterback spot but the read option. He don't throw better than him. He don't throw with anticipation better than him. I mean, this dude was 5,000 yards last year, led the NFL in touchdowns pass. There's nothing Jalen Hurts except running the read option and maybe the tush push that he does better than Dak Prescott. And I like Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. But Dak Prescott, at this point right now in the National Football League, does everything better than Jalen Hurts at that quarterback spot.
Does he win better?
Is it a team goal? Or are we talking about a quarterback? Because I put winning on the team. Because you need defenses and all that. So I don't.
How do you take that comment, Mark, as a Cowboy fan? Dak? Because it made me think about this. Salaries are dictated on what you do with your numbers, and Kirk Cousins is the poster child for that. Okay, I mean, he's not paid on winning, and he's made more money than any quarterback in the history of the National Football League, including Tom Brady. You tell me. I mean, is Dak Prescott? Now look, Dak plays a lot like Favre in the postseason. Here's a Favre line: 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah,
three touchdowns look good, and he plays a lot like Tony Romo. They're a lot like each other in many ways. They'll make a spectacular play, and they'll make the boneheaded play.
But sometimes they get bailed out.
My problem comes down to this. When I look at Jalen Hurts, there's not a chance in hell I would build my team around Jalen Hurts over Dak Prescott. There's just no way.
I can just sit here today. Okay.
Well, no, but here's the one thing that he does do better.
What's that?
This guy knows how to, for whatever reason, make everyone better around him. I'll say something to you. Wait, hang on here. He did not have a good year last year. Do we agree? He was 30 turnovers.
I agree.
But watch this. Well, he made a $30 million A.J. Brown have a 15, almost 1,600-yard year.
Yes.
He had a guy on the other side with 1,200. There's a guy in Chicago now that just signed a contract who was on a 1-year deal, and DeAndre Swift, who the Lions gave up on, who just signed a 3-year, $10 million a year deal. He's made every guy around him successful. Did he struggle? Okay. Isn't the objective of that player to make everyone around you better? That doesn't make everyone around him better.
Bro,
He's made one guy better.
Bro. But no, that's where you're wrong. Because I can take, from Green Bay. God, I'm getting old and having brain farts. I'm hoping I'm not getting dementia here.
Running back?
No, wide receiver. He was with Green Bay. He's free agent out there right now. Yeah, Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb, 2014, 2015, was beasting. The last 3 years he was with Green Bay, his numbers plummeted. He was literally down to 400-some yards. Green Bay said, see ya. We're done. He comes to Dallas, has almost 900 yards, 6 TDs, and gets a $27 million contract to go get Deshaun Watson to throw to him, where he reverts back to the 400-and-some yard guy and proceeds to get cut, goes back with Aaron Rodgers and proceeds to have 400-some yards. You can take Des Bryant's yards per completion. His most by a yard was with Dak Prescott. You can take a guy like Allen Hurns, who ended up basically being just about off the NFL, comes to Dallas, has his career numbers. Everybody who then leaves, typically, most of the time, with the exception of Amari Cooper, just drops off the face of the earth.
Amari Cooper was forced out because the salary cap into $20 million. They didn't want to pay him.
Well, they don't want to pay anybody. And I can go back to where you're saying, I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback. I'm not saying that he's not making people better around him. The fact that he can run in the same way that RG3 running outside, you were so worried about him going to the house that the defenders are having to come up. If the defenders are coming up, I've got an easy pass to a wide open wide receiver. It's not like I've got to throw in a tight window. That makes the team better, that style of football. But it's not obtainable.
Let me say this to you, Mark. It's the other way around. The team makes him better. If he was so good, the Eagles wouldn't have had a 7-game losing streak. I get that, and I appreciate that, Trops. But I'll make this point to you too as well. You know, when I look at Dak Prescott, does he exude confidence, in your opinion, when it comes to winning a title? Or do you have a little more confidence when you're sitting around Hurts? I feel a little more confident around Jalen than I do around Dak. I don't feel a champion. You do?
I don't feel like my team feels like a champion. You know what? You guys can get excited because you're constantly looking at problems and you're trying to solve problems. Let's be real here. This is not the 90s where the Cowboys had too deep on everything that with guys that could be starters. We go in with the bare minimum. We literally have an owner saying we're going to do more with less. We literally went to the playoffs without having a linebacker on the roster. Your buddy Stephen Jones and his whole position flex of saying, you know what, we're going to take Tony Pollard and we're going to make him an everyday down
So you
back.
penalize Howie because he does his job?
No, I'm not. I'm actually praising him. I'm handicapped because of my guy. You can't honestly look at the roster that the Eagles had on their offense and say it's the same as what Dak Prescott's working.
Well, let me throw this one at you. Who do you think is over or underachieved more in his job, Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott?
I'm not going to say that Jalen Hurts is underachieved. I think he's actually not had a good career. And I think that he has been a difference maker for that team. He fits what the Eagles want to do.
See, well, here's the difference between
I don't think that, see, and here's the
here's
thing.
the difference between
You don't
Cowboys
have,
and Eagles right
you don't
there.
have
The
to
Eagles fans are
disrespect
looking for
one to.
Lombardis. You're looking for what? Being decent? I'm looking for Lombardis. I think he's kind of underachieved in a way because this is about winning championships. You guys in Dallas have lowered the bar so far. You're like Pittsburgh now. Hey, we haven't had a losing season in 17 years. Since when was that the benchmark in Pittsburgh?
And yet y'all only have one.
Dallas has lowered their expectations on yearly just wanting to hang around the rim. The reason I get pissed off at the Eagles is because of the 27 free agents that will be in 25 and the constant turnover in the coaching staff. You sit and you go over the same regurgitated problems every year. It just doesn't change.
You do realize
it's just a different year.
See, you're actually panicking and thinking that there's 25 guys that are free agent. Well, no, you're actually you do realize that on average it's about 38 to 40% of everybody's roster turns over every year. You know that,
not
right?
on one side of the ball like that. The Eagles aren't going to. Who's being turned over next year offensively? Nobody.
Well, you're looking at your defense.
That whole unit, maybe.
I can lose without you. Okay. You know what? I would actually look at that and say, this is an opportunity to figure out who should be here. If you're good, I'm going to find a way to keep you next year. If you're not, if we don't have any better results, then you can get the hell out.
Let me throw this at you here. Do you believe that there will be a deal signed by the Cowboys with CD, Dak, or Parsons in a week?
No. Because here's what you know. Come on. You know Stephen Jones and crew. You know what they like to do? They signed Diggs the very first day, literally right after the press conference, it was announced that Diggs had got his contract last year. What Jerry likes to do is he likes to try and circumvent the agents and stuff. He likes to get them one-on-one. You know, hey, Dak, come on here, man. Let's get this thing hammered out here. You know, in between practice and stuff. That's why they like to do this stuff. They
I got to
like
read
get
that part. I got to
touch.
read it. All I keep hearing is Dak is 9-4 versus the Eagles. If it's a team game, can't have it both ways. Make winning a stat, and it fits the narrative that the team blame it when the Cowboys lose in the playoffs. It's a fair comment there. And also Sydney here. You shut down Hurts, Eagles can still win. You shut down Dak, that's all, folks.
That just makes the point right there. It's all Dak. Either you win or lose with Dak. That says right there, shout out to Sydney family with that big super chat. You're 100% right. And it's the same thing. If this is the exact same thing we have with Tony Romo, either we win because of Tony Romo or we lose because of Tony Romo, because you don't have a team good enough around them to stop. And as I point out, look, what if Kansas City doesn't make the stop down there in overtime? Their defense. Is Pat Mahomes now a lesser quarterback? No, the defense saved him. Pacheco picking up big first down and big yardage. Without those things, they don't win the Super Bowl. Does that say that, you know, Pat Mahomes has to have things to win? Yes, like every quarterback does.
Well,
but
he has nothing except Travis Kelce here. Let me get this. Jalen Eagles.
True, but that's a pretty good weapon right there.
No, it is. You're right.
Okay.
And we'll change again in 4 if he's bad. Absolutely. I agree with that. I want to throw this. I want to read something to you. And you know what? Mark, I'm going to give you a little bit more love here when it comes to Michael Parsons.
Lordy. Now some shit's gonna hit the fan here. You're showing me love. The world's coming to an end.
And, okay, here.
Yeah, officially, Dan Sileo is giving love.
Hold on here. Hold on. This is what one of your fabulous coaches that helped you win 3 Super Bowls, one as a D-line coach and also as a defensive coordinator in Dallas during those great times. That was Butch Davis. And this is what he says about Micah Parsons here. He gets great pressure on the quarterbacks and sacks. You never know what the scheme is, though, for him when it comes to the run game. You never really know what they're asking him to do when it comes to his responsibility in the run game. Teams throw significantly more today than they do in the past. They may just want him to heat up the quarterback, dropping coverage, and just get hits on the quarterback and TFLs. In the 60s and 70s, 80s, and 90s, more run plays, play action. Buffalo became more passing, 11 personnel significantly in 2000. Remember how many teams played with 2 tight ends? Redskins at times would have 3 tight ends, max protection. You're even seeing 4 wideouts in games sometimes. And now you're even seeing college teams go to 5 wideouts. Butch's contention is this. He's never going to be Lawrence Taylor, Dan, if you're looking him to be Lawrence Taylor, because in today's NFL, the run is not as significant. And that's why teams have moved off the run when it comes to running the ball. They're more in third down. He said 71% of the time you're going to be a nickel package when it comes to NFL games, because the teams in the league want to throw the ball around the yard, because just look at the significant throws that you have. Right. His contention is that, hey, if you're going to hold it against Parsons, that Parsons is not a great run guy. Arizona, Buffalo kind of showed us that. That's not how you're going to win Super Bowls. You're going to win Super Bowls with this guy getting heat on the QB, TFLs, and being able to have more responsibility on what he's being asked to do. Butch said that if it was to him, he'd get him out of the run game. He'd put him more on the weak side. Yeah, and keep this guy fresh by the end of the year, because he says today's NFL is different than it was when Lawrence Taylor played. Hey, LT was a complete player. Me and him had a conversation, Mark. You played in the trenches. Aaron Donald, I said this to him. I go like this. I never really thought Aaron Donald was a complete ball player. And he goes, wow, that's interesting. Why? I go, well, he runs around blocks. He doesn't care about the run. He gets in that 3 technique. He gets up the football field in that 3 technique on first, second, and third down. Mark, he takes himself out of plays. He runs around blocks sometimes. But what does he do? He creates havoc. He gets tackles for losses. He's a tremendous pass rusher. He's made a career. He's not a complete defensive player where you play the run like Sapp and you pass rush. They don't really have an emphasis in today's game. So maybe, to his point, maybe Dan Quinn misused him.
The thing I look at with Mike is he's 6'3" and about 245. If you have him every down as basically an edge rusher, and he's going against tackles that are 320, 330, getting double teamed and stuff, by the end of the season, his ass is just going to be worn down. Yep. And if I'm running at him, the running back is reading the offensive lineman's ass. If I got a guy that's 330 coming down on Micah Parsons, he's going to win. And that's where you can't have him trying to hold up the run. We have this whole thing that, unfortunately, Micah is being Dak Prescott. That's Dak Prescotted, I should say, because everybody's looking to say, well, he sucks at the run, man. He's not doing it. He's not winning. You can't expect him to win the whole game, especially when your defensive front is not good, because ideally what you want to have is Micah Parsons, your job is outside contained and making sure you cause havoc in the backfield. I need a defensive line that can establish the line of scrimmage or even push it back another yard. And you and I, now me as a nose guard, I was 220 at JMU. I was light in the ass. And what I know is when I took on a double team, I'm back here with the safeties. Because I don't have the weight and enough ass.
Me and Jerome were 290.
Yeah. And exactly. You were a big guy, so you could drop the anchor and clog up the middle. When you have the middle pushed out and he's going upfield, you're creating lanes, and everybody's, oh, he sucks at the run. It's not his responsibility. That's where the defensive line has to hold that line and keep
the middle of it. Let me get to Trops here. Every team that beat the Cowboys in regular season and playoffs ran the ball down the Cowboys' throat. That theory doesn't work for us. Go see the Rams and the Green Bay game.
Again, it goes back to the interior defense. See, here's the problem. Fantasy football has fucked up everything, okay? People will look at an interior defensive lineman. They'll see, he's got 40 tackles and 3 sacks. Man, the guy's a bum. He's not doing anything. If you're equating that to a linebacker's number or an edge rusher's numbers, yeah, it does look like crap. But people don't understand that your job in that interior defensive line is to hold up the line so the linebackers get the glory. You are there to make sure the quarterback can't step up. If the quarterback can't step up, the edge rushers are going to be getting sacks left and right.
That's what changed in Dallas there, because in my opinion,
we've not been good on the interior.
No, because you know why? When Jimmy ran to 43, we had one gap techniques.
Mm-hmm.
There was no two gapping. I think two gap defensive tackles. Here's what I would do with Mozzie. I think they're completely coaching him wrong. This is what I would do. Put him in a 3 technique, run him up the field, see what he can do, knock guys around. Because right now, what you're asking him to do, he's not going to be effective at. He wasn't a 2-gapper when he was at Michigan. Right. He just wasn't. When Dan Quinn got him last year,
that's my biggest worry right now.
He's slow off to start because he doesn't know what technique he's being asked to play.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, Mark, when they asked me to play nose, I was slow, and I was one of the fastest guys. I ran a 4.8. And so when I got to the pro, I'm sitting there going, I'm playing two gap. So I hope that Zimmer, and I think Mike will do a better job of that here, okay? I do. Let me get to this next question here. Do you think the not security of Mike McCarthy's job, how does that affect the team, you think, yearly? Year in and year out, when everyone knows in the room that this could be the last year that Mike McCarthy's the head football coach and there's no stability at that position. Not saying that there's a lot of stability around the league, but in Dallas, it seems to be accentuated more that every year Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat. And here's a guy that's won 36 ball games in 2 years. He's been a success with Dak. 3 years. He's been a success. Winning those 36 games in the last 3 years. I mean, he's coached the Packers and the Cowboys, 2 of the biggest brands in the NFL's history.
2 of the hardest ones to work for.
Fair job of it. I mean, how does that affect the roster year in and year out?
I don't think it does, because you're always on the hot seat in Dallas. After the first year, it was like, oh, Mike McCarthy, you get fired. Even though Dak got injured and we ended up 6-10, and Washington wins the division at 7-9. Every year he's on the hot seat. How is it any different? Jason Garrett went to his contract end twice, so I don't think that's really an issue. And to me, it's still crazy when you think that you had Dak Prescott, who, be it he had a broken thumb, with Kellen Moore, who's thought to be a great genius. He leaves, and your quarterback's got 36 TDs and 9 interceptions and, playing seemingly lights out. That's Mike McCarthy. He was calling the plays. That's the difference right there. Yeah, your team has not made, playoff success. Do I look at Mike McCarthy and say, well, damn, Mike McCarthy, you failed. How could you not win a playoff game not having linebackers on there? You could just make some shit up right there. When I look at the failure, I don't look at the failure as Mike McCarthy. I look at the failure of the Joneses not doing what's necessary. We know we've had problems on the defensive line forever. We know we were literally with a rookie linebacker. We were looking to be a starter that was a mid-round pick, and a guy who's made of glass.
Cowboys want to help Dak
about it.
Get a good running back cheap. Right. I'm going to go there in a second. Mark, would you trade for Khalil Mack?
For Khalil Mack? I think Khalil Mack's better days are behind him.
Yeah, 17 last year.
Okay. Here's my thing. I think I'm okay with D-Law with Sam Williams, with Goldson and stuff. I need more of a nose guy. I need interior defensive linemen more than I need edge rushers.
Let me throw this at you.
That's our problem. We had so many guys last year that were good at rushing outside. We didn't have the interior defensive lineman. This goes back to Stephen Jones and his position flex. Well, if you're a tackle, then you can be an interior tackle, a nose tackle and everything else. Or if you're a defensive end, you can play tackle. It doesn't work that way. You're too undersized to be good when it comes to really stopping the run.
I appreciate everybody on today here. We got over 1,000 on Twitter right now and all the platforms you guys are all on right now. We so appreciate it. Thank you very much. Please hit the like button. Let me ask you this here. I threw a couple names out in free agency here. And I want to throw some of these names out here for the Cowboys. Tell me something. I'm a fan of Stephon Gilmore. I didn't think he had a poor year last year.
Yes.
Okay. Why did the Cowboys let him roll?
Right now, I have been on the whole bandwagon of saying, okay, Diggs is coming back from an ACL.
Because I think Gilmore's better than Slay.
I agree. You got no argument there. But I would be bringing him back in for an insurance policy because I don't know if Diggs is going to be 100% because we're still saying he's not going to be ready to open up camp to be able to practice. Week 1 is in doubt. Why not bring back a Stephon Gilmore? I know Stephon wants to get, 2 years. So far he hasn't signed with anybody. Maybe the Cowboys are playing a game of chicken and saying, we'll wait, and maybe we'll get a better price. But that is truly one of those positions I would look at and say, we're better off if we get Stephon Gilmore as an insurance policy in case Diggs is not ready to return, without a doubt. And see, this is what ticks me off because you keep wanting to blame Mike McCarthy, and I'm looking at this and saying, I got a question mark on my cornerback because of Diggs. I have question marks on my defensive line because we're relying on a rookie who had a shoulder surgery. Mozzie had shoulder surgery and could not practice in OTAs. But we're looking and saying, we're good there. And then we go in and we get Zeke Elliott, who kind of had a down year. I will say that being in New England definitely hurt him, but you're not looking at him being a premier back. And we're not doing anything to address those. That's what's my problem with it. And that's where I look and say, I can't blame the quarterback as much. I can't blame the coach as much. I got to blame the front office for not doing what they can to help the roster.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Harrell or somebody else said that Khalil Mack did not have 17 sacks last year. I think you need to check yourself, kid, because he did with the Chargers last year. He had 17 sacks last year, and he had 74 tackles with the Los Angeles Chargers last year. So before you say he didn't, by the way, if you look at it, let me see, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 21. I think he's had 25 sacks in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and the Chargers are looking at dealing him too. So to me, I mean, you want to get guys on the ground. You're good with D. Lawrence. Okay, I get it there. I mean, but how about this one here? Let me throw this at you.
Yeah, he had 17 sacks last year, 8 the year before. 6 with the big.
He's had 25 sacks in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we're talking about a guy who can get around the horn. And if you think about it, what has he got for his career? He's got 101 sacks.
Yep.
You're talking about a guy with 100 sacks in his career.
Charles had 100.5, to put that in perspective.
That's absolutely insane. I mean, you're talking about a guy, a couple more years, if he puts 10 plus more sack years up, you're talking about a guy who's going to knock on the Hall of Fame door. How about somebody like this, Mark, that could help? Because do you agree you need a little bit more help back there for Dak if you're going to be successful?
Yeah, you think?
Okay, why not do this? And I propose this. Now, the Eagles are in a better position than the Cowboys because I do think Barkley has got something left in the tank, and I think he's a good ball player. Why not a guy like Dalvin Cook, who a year ago, outside of that disastrous year a year ago, he comes off of 5 straight years of 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards to be exact. He's 28 years old. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. We're talking about a guy who you got Zeke back there. At least if you had Zeke and a guy like Dalvin Cook both carrying the mail, doesn't that at least cover a little bit for Tony Pollard and the grand that you lost so that you could help him with more than play action? I'm not talking about 2 bell cow guys any longer. I'm talking about two guys that could at least make me have to coordinate the play action. Because with the guys you have now, I don't fear your play action.
I don't either. And I look at it and say, Dalvin Cook, last year, you could say could have been a year that he actually healed up because he only had 67 carries.
And the shitty Jets.
Yeah, on the Jets. So he didn't get battered and bruised, so his body should be in pretty good shape. And
this one
is
too,
he
Mark?
Better than Rico Gathers? Yeah. Is he better
How about
than
this, Mark?
Yeah.
Mark, think about this. He's had a better career than Saquon Barkley, and everybody in Philly is tooting their horn over him about how good he is. This guy's had 5 straight years of a grand. This guy's had more 1,000-yard rushing yards at the same age as and he's had like a 1,500-yard year, more than anything Barkley ever did. I mean, and he was in Minnesota. And let's not forget about Minnesota, what they did. They moved not only off of him, they moved off of Cousins.
Yeah. Now, again, that's another guy. That's another guy whose best years are behind him, but he's definitely an improvement over what we have right now. And I think in the mix of things, I would definitely do that one. But we're talking about the Joneses that don't want to pay anybody.
So you tell me about this Rico kid, because I see Ultra Cowboy in here telling me was more explosive than Pollard last year. Do you buy that? Because I don't know who the hell the kid is.
He was the backup back. Rico, he was okay, but again, he's getting nicked up, and that's the problem with his career he has been injured more than he's been actually on the field. And so it's like we're waiting and waiting and waiting. Maybe he could have a breakout year, but I'm sitting here thinking about, last year was not great. I'm trying to pull up the stats here real quick.
And he did it mostly in a backup role too, right?
Yeah, he was. Tony Pollard was clearly the lead back. The Cowboys were going to run him into the ground. That's what they always do.
Why didn't they bring Tony Pollard back instead of Zeke?
Here's the problem with Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, they screwed the pooch because Tony Pollard was good at being a guy with the ball in space. And he's a guy who you can't give more than about 10, 12 reps in a game. The year before, when he had Zeke was out and he had like 22 carries, he was literally suck and win. He's not a between the tackles type guy. He's more of a Robin as opposed to a Batman. That's where, the year before Zeke had 900 some yards. You had Tony Pollard with like 1,000. It was a good mix between the two of them. The thing was, when he had to carry the load, his yards per carry just dropped off the face of the earth.
Your surprises going into camp. Give me one name that you're going to be thinking that could be a surprise for the Cowboys as they look for camp in 2 weeks.
I'm going to say Cooper Beebe is going to be a lot better than people are going to be anticipating. And that's the one I can't wait to see. Between him and Brock Hoffman, because I think Brock Hoffman is going to be pushing him. Brock Hoffman playing, we're talking about center, of course. Brock Hoffman actually started 3 games last year for Biadasz, and I thought he actually played better than Biadasz. So he's not ready to relinquish this position. But I really think that Cooper Beebe, with his size, his strength, his mentality, is going to be a game changer for this offensive line.
Well, that quarterback can help him. You know how they can help him? Get the ball out of his hand quicker, having quicker plays, especially, look, when you have a new O-line, and the Cowboy O-line from 3 years ago is not the same. If I'm Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys, what I'm doing, because I've got CD in the slot, I'm getting the ball out of the Cowboy quarterback's hands quicker because I don't have to be in pass probe that long, and we can have quicker routes. And get this, with quicker routes, you know what that also does with quicker routes? It also limits the opportunity on turnovers and also yards after the catch, which he's been really good at, CeeDee Lamb. So to me, if you utilize that kind of mentality there, you could bring along your O-line. But to me, this comes down to the play caller, which Mike was great last year. I mean, the guy had 37 touchdowns, had 9 picks. He finished second in the MVP race. So, I mean, if they do that, the Cowboys could have something. But again, I think it comes down to being able to really have a defense think, is play action really real? Because if I don't bite on play action, I'm pinning my ears back on it, man. They've got to still come up with a rouge for the pass rush to be slowed down.
Well, we didn't have a great rushing attack last year. But here's the thing. You literally –
I don't think you needed one. But you had a little bit and enough.
Yeah, but here's the thing. What you just stated, if we took last year this time when Mike McCarthy was going to start calling plays, okay, he came through and everybody said, are you changing the whole offense? He said, no, we're changing about a third of the offense will change. He said, we're going to get rid of some things. We're going to do things. We're going to simplify it is actually what he said. We're going to simplify the offense, and we're going to be trying to get the ball out quicker. People took that as, oh, well, see, Dak Prescott, he's not smart enough to be able to do more complex things.
That's not true.
No, what they did is they realized we need to go 1, 2, 3, boom, that ball is out of here. And we're throwing to a spot. We're doing more timing routes, and we're getting the guys the ball in space where they can make plays. Kellen Moore has more slower developing combination routes where it gets to be the quarterback and the wide receiver have to be on the same page. And see, that to me was the biggest difference of the Texas Coast offense that Mike McCarthy had was it's going to be right now. We're getting rid of the ball.
But you had more talent when Kellen was there.
Yeah. But the sack numbers went down and the touchdowns went up and the interceptions went down by doing that.
Yeah, supposedly it's like $18,000. Hoss, at the end of the day, I want a disciple, $18,000 a day for a guy who's going to make $37 million, maybe $40 million per year. Okay, no disrespect, but that's like Roy Rogers money. Going to buy yourself a Roy Rogers. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's
regardless, he'll be there before the season opener. He may not be happy, but he'll be there one way or the other. And I think the Cowboys do get it done. I don't think they'll get it done before training camp because they're just the Cowboys and they like the drama.
Couple last ones here for you, Mark. You're comfortable with the O-line?
We've had an offensive line that's been in flux for quite a while. Tyron Smith, believe it or not, over the last 4 years has only averaged 7 games a year. We've had problems with right tackle between Lyle Collins and his hip, and then, of course, getting Terrence Steele as a rookie who was terrible. Biadasz has always left you wanting. Zach Martin has been the stable thing. We've had problems with guard until we got Tyler Smith. So the offensive line not being good. You guys have a stable offensive line. I envy what you guys have had for about the last 5 or 6 years.
No, it's about 20 years.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that they could do is develop offensive linemen. They've gone from Howard Mudd. They've gone to Jeff Stoutland. And let's not forget, too, when the Cowboys were sensational, the Cowboys had Tony Weiss.
Yep.
And when Tony Weiss was in the building, he was one of the better offensive line coaches. You know, it's funny, Mark. Everyone always assumes because Dallas Cowboys had the greatest O-line of all time, and I've broached this with you before. Well, all those guys were Landry guys outside of Stebnoski when they first got there. I mean, Nate was a guy who was a USFLer that came in. He was actually a rescue guy.
Too, and you're too fat. Get rid of this guy.
Hey, Mark Tuney was a defensive tackle at one time at UCLA. They converted him.
Round draft picks.
Right. And you had Crawford Kerr was a 3rd-round pick, maybe one of your higher picks. He played guard for you. Then you got Kevin Gogan over from the 49ers. These were all things that Landry did. But you guys still only won 4 games the final year in Landry's last season. And then when Jimmy gets in there, the linchpin of the whole thing was getting Emmett. Once you got Emmett in the building, it made that O-line the greatest O-line in modern-day history and what you guys were able to do. I mean, that O-line, but I like this O-line here too.
Sadly, the game had passed Tom Landry by. He was
still in the flex defense too, playing a yard off the ball, but he was going to a nose. That's why he drafted Noonan. He drafted Noonan and he brought me in because they were going to go to a 3-4. He was getting away from that, and he was getting out of the flex. If he had been given another year, he was going to. They were not going to play the flex. I don't know if Randy would have still been there or not, but all right. Let me leave you with this one here. As you go into training camp, you fear more the Eagles, or do you fear more the Niners?
Oh man, I feel more the Niners. I'm sorry. No disrespect to the Eagles. It's always a fight, but it's like I know you guys. We know what to expect with you. The 49ers, they've been really, really good, but I do believe that the Super Bowl hangover is a real thing. And you look at how everybody turns and cycles over. You just don't know. We could be, that 5-12 team next year. I mean, how things go in the NFL. The Giants didn't think that they were going to be in the basement last year. And the same thing could happen with the Eagles. You just don't know. An injury here, an injury there could be the difference. I honestly believe, and I'm not trying to put my hater glasses on, but I really think the Eagles are going to be taking a big step back this year.
I think they take a step back because they're not going to have enough time to get that offense in sync.
That's it.
You're just not going to install the things that you want to install. You had all that same. The only thing that's different for the Eagles this year is Barkley. And last year's running back had 1,100 yards. The year before that, he had 1,200. There's no difference. And last year they had 17 games and they never got on the same page. Now, he's a more experienced play caller. Yes, that's what the conversation in Philly is. That's true. However, is he the right one? Remember something about this. Vic Fangio was asked to leave in Miami. He was asked to leave. Okay? They never went after him. They let him go. He was the highest paid coordinator. And the Eagles blew his doors off last year offensively with the guy they fired. Now, I mean,
he's
the right guy.
And he's doing a complete rebuild, basically.
But here's the one thing that I will say about you guys. I think you guys are tanking.
I think you're tanking. I honestly don't know what we're doing.
I think you're tanking.
What doesn't make sense to me is
I don't see anywhere on your football team where you have an advantage going into a game. You have no advantage. You have no advantage in your O-line.
You could say that, but Dan, you could say the exact same thing about last year.
But the Eagles have an advantage.
You had an advantage.
Your issues are coaching.
Okay, but here's the thing, Dan. Every year after we were 6-10 and Dak Prescott was injured, we didn't do anything to get any better. We did not do anything. After the next year we go 12-5, we get rid of Amari Cooper, let go Randy Gregory, got rid of Lyle Collins, got rid of Connor Williams. You could look and say you're tanking because they didn't replace any of those players. We literally started that season with two guys that had never caught a touchdown pass starting at wide receivers with a second-year wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb.
Ultra
Cowboys. So how could you not say? How is
Clown
this
Dan,
eight
All-Pros, and you were fucking completely destroyed by the Packers. With all those young guys, you were annihilated by Arizona, and you got beat by a football team that went back to a 1927 offense that only threw the ball 10 times. Who are you kidding with your 8 All-Pros guy? Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry.
The only reason that they're all pros because they have the star in their hat.
Thank you.
If
I
they're
hate to say that.
else, like in Tennessee, they're nowhere. And Bland was so overrated. You take those pick sixes to the house out, he was constantly toast last year.
But you know what, though? Those plays are big plays that matter.
They are.
Here's what I will say. The guy was a 5th-round draft pick in his second year.
He's overseeded.
Right. But now we got the interception part down. Now we're going to work on your coverage skills. And you could look at the same thing about Diggs, his year, for second year where he ended up getting all the interceptions and stuff. The knock was he still gives up a lot of big plays, which he did. The next year, the interceptions went down, but his coverage got better. And
do you believe the Cowboys are the 6th best roster in the league?
No.
I mean,
no.
Dan,
here's what happens. See, you forget the whole game. The Cowboys lose in the playoffs. They're the worst team in the football. Jerry Jones sucks at GM. The quarterback is terrible. The coach is on the hot seat. Then we go through free agency. The Cowboys still suck. They don't do anything to help the roster or anything like that, right? They're a terrible team. You would think that literally they're the worst team in the NFL. They go through the draft. They got a C+, a B-. They didn't really address their needs. They should have got this guy, that guy, and everything else. But then by training camp gets here, it's always, the Cowboys roster is really good.
You You think you have a better 53-man roster than Washington?
Yes. That one I would say.
They got the best linebacking core. They got the best linebacking core in the NFC East. They got a better duo of wide receivers than you do. They have a better
quarterback.
What's that? That's the question. Absolutely going to be
okay.
If you get anything like a CD or a CJ Stroud, and I'm not saying he's going to have to put up those kind of numbers, but in that division, if they put up some respectable numbers with the quarterback position, Johan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, you don't have that in Dallas.
Yeah, but they've got this jinx in Washington. It doesn't matter who you are as a quarterback. When you go there, your careers go to die. Just for whatever reason, it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your credentials are, you've set up for failure. Now maybe they've changed, but until I see something different, I'm not expecting a whole lot from it.
Well, bro, I'll tell you what, we shall see, man. I mean, hey, by the way, how was your fourth?
The fourth was good. My fourth was good. My air conditioning was not working in my house, so I had to come home and get my brother over here and get it working. But other than that, it was great.
Tell folks how they can find you, brother.
JAKIB Sports Report, Mark Holmes. Just look for me on Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, YouTube and Facebook and stuff. And hopefully you'll be seeing me in about 3 weeks at training camp with Dan Sileo.
And you want them tickets, right?
If you can get them. If not, I'll work on getting those as well.
I
I was hoping that we'd go together there.
Hold on for a second here. Big Sills. Well, wait a minute. No, you did help me out already. Okay. Yeah. No. You did help me out. All right. Wait. Okay.
I did help you out.
Hey, now I'm being grateful. Now I'm being not grateful here.
Oh, Lordy. I come in here every week to actually get the shit kicked out of me. I was actually getting ready to get the first aid kit.
Here's what Xander says. Mark doesn't know Big Sills yet. Big Sills ain't showing. It's not that. Hey, Xander, the Cowboy camp is not that far away. It's not that far. We're not talking about a 6-hour flight. Put my ass in one of those narrow plane flights.
It's nice
what
and
these
cool
guys
there,
do?
too.
These guys fly me in a prop plane across the country, man, sitting out the window there, and I got a seat this big. And Big Sills needs a little more room. I'm a roomy guy.
Oh, Lordy. I hear you on that one.
Hey, right. I'm more of a roomy guy, man. They put me in coach back there with the damn with the suitcases and shit. And I'm like, no, this ain't working here, man. I need wheels up. How you doing?
All right. Well, I'll see you next Wednesday, bro.
All right, man. Hey, Mark, I appreciate it, brother. Hang on here for a second. Sydney family. Hope Randy gets better, Mark.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. One of our great fans was in a head-on car crash.
Oh, geez.
150 mile an hour was the crash thing about 2 months ago, and he's
woo!
Right now.
There you go.
Oh, damn.
Up Dak's ass.
Okay. And on that note, it's time to get the hell out of here.
Time to giddy up. Hey, Mark, thanks a lot for doing that, man. I think Big Marshall just helped me out there. Mark, thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate it.
Peace out.
You got it. That is Mark Holmes. Don't forget to check him out there. Absolutely, man. Hey, Marshall, I think you saved it there. You can find Mark up Dak's ass. Pretty funny. Pretty funny. We'll turn it back around here a little bit. Get your thoughts, and then Xander's going to join us. That'll be at the bottom of the hour. You guys are killing it right now on Twitter, believe it or not. Well over 1,000 people are watching the show. Thank you guys for tuning in on all the platforms, Facebook, on Twitter, on our YouTube show, of course. We really appreciate it. Please hit the like button. Thank you guys so much for doing this. When we come back, we'll talk with Xander. By the way, you know what I'll do with Xander? We'll take a look at some of those guys that are one-year deals. The Eagles are going to have 27 players. 27 players they're going to have that are going to be free agents at the end of this year. Not all of them are important. We'll hit on them. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please hit the like button. All platforms are killing it right now. Thank you so much. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you guys for being on all of them. We really appreciate it. Who is the one player that you're going to be looking for a breakout year in the league this year? No, mine is Anthony Richardson. I'm going to be looking for Anthony Richardson. I can't wait to see what him and Shane can do if this kid can last a full season. Charlie says, Dan, what would it cost to bring Mac to the Birds? What are they asking? And what do you think about signing Stu and bringing in Mac? Love that idea. Any kind you can get veteran guys like that would be absolutely insane. Versus Nolan Smith. Who would I rather have? The guy who's had 25 sacks in the last 2 years? Or a guy I'm not sure could play 25 plays? Think about it. I'm talking about 2024. And how he signs guys on one-year deals. Okay? Twiz goes, F Mac, get Hendrickson. Well, are you willing to give up $20 million a year in a first-rounder? Twiz? Are you prepared to do that? Giving up a first-round pick and $20 million. Or a 3 and a 5 and $25 million like Brian Burns got in New York. Are you prepared for that? Sure. Okay. That'll cost you more. When you start shopping in different places, it's not the same price. You shop at Target, and you guys want to shop at Neiman Marcus for Target prices. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. Okay? It's not happening. Cam Newton said that if he had to build a football team, he'd build it around Dak instead of Hurts. You know the one thing that I will give Jalen credit for and why Jalen gets a ton of crap it's not Jalen's fault he's at a good organization that puts talent around him. It's not his fault that the Eagles do a better job with their quarterback now, they never have, than what the Cowboys have done. Now, the Cowboys did a decent job when it came to Romo, an early Dak, but not now they haven't. Okay? I mean, he is Yale, he's lucky. He's got an organization that's willing to go out now and spend the equity and the capped equity to build a football team around him. And for the record, they've got to build a bigger football team around Jalen than any other quarterback, including Carson Wentz, that they've had in the last 24 years. Nobody in the last 24 years in Philadelphia has had a football team built around him more so than what Hurts has. Donovan McNabb hasn't. Michael Vick hasn't. Carson Wentz for sure hasn't. They have done more for Jalen Hurts than any quarterback in 24 years. Am I wrong? Oh, and by the way, tomorrow Big Seals will be boycotting that fascist ESPYs thing. I will not be watching that, so I could sit around and throw up in my my vomit bag like I'm on an airplane or something, listening to people tell me how shitty the world is, and also telling me about Pat Tillman and how you're going to give the award to some English dude that sits around in a jet, pretends to be a pilot. And, you know, I mean, I don't give a shit about Prince Henry or Prince Harry or Prince Harriet. I don't care what happens to those people over there. I could care less. Hey, Sills, you see what happened to the Royals? Royal flush? What are you talking about? Hey, you see the king sick? I could care less about the king. Hey, Sills, you have no... That's where our heritage... I go, that's not where my heritage is from. My heritage is from down in Sicily, down near Messina. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. All right. Oh, before I bring Xander on, because I want to make sure he gets a call today. I think Howard's going to survive this, Howard Eskin. Don't say nothing, please. My boy's going to make it. Let's bring Xander in.
What's up, Big Sills?
What is going down, brother? I appreciate you coming aboard with us, man. Thank you so much.
You know, Big Sills, I love Mark Holmes, but every time we have Mark Holmes on, every single time, I get more and more confident in my Philadelphia Eagles, because what a disgrace it is to be a Dallas Cowboy fan and actually want to win football games and win championships and win what we all want here in Philadelphia. If you want to be a cheerleader or you want to be all those things and you want to have the cool brand and you want to have merchandise and all that crap, it's great to be a Cowboy fan. But boy, do I feel better about the Philadelphia Eagles every time that guy comes on. Mark, I love you though, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
No, because, you know, I was listening to him and he goes, yeah, you know, and I'm going like, you know why I'm a little salty in Philly? Because these guys are right here. Your guys are like, you're Grand Canyon away from winning something.
Yeah, they really are.
Xander, they're a Grand Canyon away.
I'm going to continue ripping on them too when we do this segment with the 1-year deals.
Yeah, no. Hey, we're gonna take a look at that. But I also want to throw some of these potential free agents. You know, one thing you guys talked about today with Reed Blankenship that I wanted to. And you said this perfectly the other week about Isaiah Rodgers. Xander, they're going to do the same thing to Reed Blankenship that they did to TJ Edwards. He's a UDFA. They're going to exit that guy, whether he has a good year or not, or he starts developing into being a good safety. They're moving off of him because of Sidney Brown and some of the other guys that got back there in the secondary now. Because if they did it to TJ Edwards, don't you think they're going to do that to a Reed Blankenship? And by the way, you and I think we're the same on Reed. Some days I like him. Some days I don't. Some days I
Right,
kind of
right,
like him.
right.
I'm kind of that guy. I'm kind of around the room with him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, is Reed Blankenship a guy that you look at that? Look, I like Reed. I'm not against him, but I'm
There's
saying
a need for him though.
if they were to do that though, there's business in the NFL. There's turnover on every roster. You're not going to lock up every player. You're not going to give every guy the big extension. You're not going to do that. There's always going to be turnover. And if one of our turnover spots is Reed Blankenship, I mean, I'll live. I really will. Now maybe they will go that route, but I don't think they will actually.
You think they'll keep him on the team?
I think at least for the next 2 seasons, this season and then the season after this, so 2025. So the next 2 years, I think Reed Blankenship's going to be an Eagle. Now, after that, that's when the jury is out because I believe they went out on a limb and they bought out his restricted free agent contract, which would be for next season. So he'll be here for the next 2 years. They didn't have to do that. So they signaled they liked the player. But, look, after that, I'm not going to get caught in that. I don't care. I really don't. He's not one of the guys I think that's a staple of this team for the next 6 years. All of those guys are under contract.
I'm going to throw some people that won't cost you any draft picks, but just some cash that you have. You have $27.7 million. There's some areas on the team, and you guys were talking about some of those areas. So you know what I did? I expanded it and went and took a look at some of those guys that are available right now. Now, look, if you want to make a trade for Hendrickson, be prepared to pay $20 million in a 3-year contract. That ain't gonna come cheap because Duke Tobin, the GM there in Cincinnati's not just gonna hand that guy over for a target price. He's gonna want Neiman Marcus numbers. Okay, so I put down these guys, about 11 or 12 guys here. How about Justin Simmons here? You were talking about, and I think also someone else was talking. I think it's Mike Gill was talking about the safety position. Justin Simmons was second-team All-Pro. He is 31. He's a guy that understands what Vic is trying to accomplish. He played for Vic. Would that be somebody? And again, I'm not talking about 2-3 years from now. I'm talking about a guy who could solidify that position. Can you imagine having Justin Simmons, having Gardner Johnson, having Keely Ringo or Isaiah Rodgers or whomever at the left, Quinyon Mitchell, and over Slay. And you have that group and also the guy coming in, Cooper DeJean. I mean, how does that sound?
Yeah, I mean, he's 31. He's what? How old is he? He's
31.
30. He's 30. He's going to be 31 in November. 15 games played last year, 12 games played the previous year.
Second team All-Pro, not Pro Bowl.
Look, great player, but I'm all right if they make the move, but I'm not itching for it, if that makes sense. If they want to add him and they think that Reed can't be a starter, then that's good. They have the money to spend. Also, I think he's still in the market because John's been saying this. I think John's right. He just doesn't want to go through all this off-season crap. He doesn't want to do the training camps, and he's probably waiting for the right team to sign with, late August, and that's when he'll make his move. He also wants to be a starter. So if you're going to sign him, you have to understand that if he's going to start, the next guy who's going to go to the bench is going to have to be a depth piece and a special teams player. So I don't think.
So for you, Xander, it's got to supersede playing the young guys. It's got to mean
I don't know
lot
if it does. I'm just
okay.
I just like
because there is a part of that going. You got to play these guys, and you got to break the umbilical cord eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of where we are right now in 24 anyway. Not many people are ready to admit that yet, but that's a truth. I mean, if you're going to have Quinyon, if you're going to have Cooper, if you're going to have Keely Ringo playing, if you're going to have Nakobe Dean playing, you're going to have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis as your front guys on the line. I mean, there's still Band-Aids to be ripped off with this defense. That's why I think 2025, not to look ahead already, I think we're going to be great this year. But 2025, I think we're going to approach this defense like, wow, we got a squad now. Because think about every player on that defense that matters. Because we're about to talk about 1-year deals. Jalen Carter's under contract for at least the next 4 years. Jordan Davis at least the next 3 years with his 5th-year option. You have Milton Williams is on an expiring deal, so that's one that you'll see. Bryce Huff is under contract for the next 3 years, at least minimum 2. Nolan Smith's here for the next 4 years. Not saying he's an impact player, but at least he's under contract. I mean, all your safeties, Gardner Johnson, 3-year deal. Reed, Blankenship, at least the next 2. I mean, these are all got, and then all your corners obviously are 4 or 5 year deals. But
Well, I'm asking question marks.
All question marks, but my point is that there's continuity. So if they are able to rip the Band-Aid off this year with the playing time, you're going to go into next season with a much higher upside at defense than you are this year. You're not losing anybody, other than maybe Milton. We'll see.
This is an interesting one here. And I think it has a lot to do, and it has a lot to do with what you're doing with Bradbury. Stephon Gilmore. Now, let me throw this at you before you shake your head no on this. He's better than Slay. He had a better year than Slay. He was graded out higher than Slay. He's another guy that's in that room, like you said. He's looking for the right situation. And can you imagine having a Stephon Gilmore teaching your younger guys like Quinyon Mitchell and a guy like Cooper DeJean and the rest of those Keely Ringo and those younger guys, Isaiah Rodgers even, where you have a guy who's going to Canton. You have a guy who's the former Defensive Player of the Year. You have a guy who's a 6-time Pro Bowler. You have a guy who's the same age as he's younger than Slay, actually. And if he's good, and Xander, these other guys turn out to be good, you can trade him for some equity at the trading deadline and move the guy. Because to me, he's not a question mark. Keely Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell, DeJean, all these guys are question marks. He ain't. And you have, like you said, you have question marks in the secondary. You have question marks in your linebacking core. You have question marks in your pass rush. You have question marks on your edge rushers. I mean, don't you want to diminish some of that?
Yeah, but why are you so
With some certainty?
And you're saying Stephon Gilmore is that level of certainty?
He's better than anything you have right now at the other corner.
Yeah, but how old is he?
He's 31.
Sills, don't you want to rip these Band-Aids off, or do you want to keep them on there? And
win? Or are we going to be going through training wheel things like we did a year ago?
Okay, how'd that work in Kansas City?
You have Patrick Mahomes.
Well, okay, but their defense was a major part of the reason they won games last year. And by the way, Patrick Mahomes doesn't play defense. Now, I know he makes life easier.
There's not a guy on your team that has the talent of Trent McDuffie.
You're missing the point, though.
Okay.
You have to be willing to rip the Band-Aid off and go through that to be able to get to the other side in a way that works when you're paying $170 million on your offense. That's reality.
And the coaching over there, too, with Steve Spagnuolo.
That's my point, though, about what I just said. You're not going to have turnover. Now you're going to go and sign Stephon Gilmore. You're going to have 2 30-plus corners playing, and then you're going to approach the season next year with a bunch of nothings, with a bunch of players who've never hit the field before.
Why is Bradbury still on your team then?
Because they can't move him. He's not going to be here when the season comes.
You can cut him for $4 million.
Okay, they'll
cut
him.
$27 million.
Howie's going to exhaust every option, like Howie always does, and he's going to take him all the way into August.
There is no option.
Try and find a trade partner for him when somebody gets hurt in training camp.
There is no option.
And if he can't,
nobody's picking up $11 million.
Pigs Hills, you're wrong. There is options.
Who in the world would pick up an $11 million contract where a guy who is one of the worst rated corners in the league, and you have to pay that money? I'm not doing that.
Okay, maybe they won't. Then they'll cut him. Who cares? What's your point?
Why is he on the team? Why aren't you going into training camp, giving the younger guys the reps? Why is he on the roster spot? There's a roster spot there.
So you read between the lines
about youth, what's he doing on the team?
You read between the lines on everything, and I love that about your show. But are you not reading between the lines here on James Bradbury? The guy's been a cornerback for 10 years in the NFL, and they come out of training at minicamp and they say, James Bradbury's a safety now. They're obviously waiting until he's off the squad. They're exhausting the options. If somebody gets hurt in training camp on a team that is a maybe contender, a team like an Atlanta or a Green Bay or somebody that might be a contender, Howie will move them for a late round pick and we'll be onward. If they don't, if it doesn't come, Howie's going to cut him. And we're going to be in the same circumstance that you're talking about right now.
What's going into the season with even lesser experience?
But you're saying you want to get rid of Bradbury anyway.
Yeah, because I want to bring in a guy who's good.
Yeah, but then you're going, all right, so now you're going to
But no, remember what I said.
That's a short-term hole and create a longer-term
But no, what I said was this is contingent on Bradbury. If you remember what I said, you get rid of Bradbury, Wouldn't you want a little bit more experience at the corner to be able to have a safety net and a fail safe? If that corner thing doesn't turn out to be what you have, like you said, you got youth at linebacker, youth in the D-line, youth at edge, you got youth at one corner for sure, and you got youth in the safety position. You're telling me you don't want to have any fail safe where you can go, that guy, at least I know, is a competent corner. You don't know you have another competent corner. You have no idea.
I'm just not confident in your failsafe. I'm not knocking the idea of having another failsafe, but I'm saying football, especially.
So you'd rather go into the season with the question mark being what it is instead of diminishing question marks?
I would rather do business the way the Eagles are doing business right now than continue to patch holes with Band-Aids and one-year deals on guys who are old and on the wrong side of 30.
They're going to do it next year.
What do you mean, what are we doing next year?
I said next year they're going to do the same thing. They got 27 free agents next year. They're going to do the same thing next year.
How many players in our starting 22 are free agents next year?
We're going to get there. Hang on.
Exactly. Okay. There's not one of them. Not one guy who's a starting 22 besides Darius Slay is potentially on the outs next year. Not one.
Okay. And again, that's right. And the rest of them are all people who have accomplished dick in this league. You have nobody on that
NFL, bro.
You have nobody on defense that has accomplished anything.
Yeah, and you can't draft guys that have experience. That's
you don't even play them.
That's
you had a chance to play
dude.
Nolan Smith last year, and you refused to.
Look, I'm not saying they do everything right. All I'm saying is when you have guys and you have a roster that needs to get younger, you're doing a disservice to your team to not play your young cornerbacks and to go into next season now because with guys who have never hit the field because you decided to sign Stephon Gilmore to a one-year deal. That's just dumb. That's bad business. That's Cowboys-esque business.
Oh, okay. No, that's Howie business because that's what he does.
It's not.
He signs one. Who's Devin White?
Okay. At some
Who's
moment.
Devin White? Who's Zach Vaughn?
For every guy you pull up right now, I can give you 2 superstars who are under contract.
Who's a superstar on defense that's under contract? Name me one.
Jalen Carter.
He's a superstar? I'll wait and see on that. I think he will be.
He's on his way to being
Give me
one.
another one.
There's none more on defense, but that's the known problem with the football team is that you have a lesser defense than you do of an offense. By the way, the Chiefs were in the exact same boat and Mahomes was still winning. You know what happened to the Kansas City defense last year in the second half of the year? They got nasty good because the young guys that they drafted had a chance to play. They didn't even sign L'Jarius Sneed, who was a young superstar cornerback. They said, nah, you're good. Go ahead.
I think that Cape May place got the sun to you, man. I think you're delusional, but it's okay. Don't worry. Actually, this segment's even better than the Mark Holmes thing. I'm very loving this now. How about this one here?
You're telling me to bring in Stephon Gilmore to patch a short-term problem. No, you just spent a first-round pick on Quinyon Mitchell. Put the guy on the field.
Okay.
If there's growing pains, there's growing pains. That's life in the NFL.
Well, then you ain't going anywhere.
Bullshit. You're
Okay.
assuming
Okay.
just like I'm assuming the player is going to be good. You're assuming the player is going to be bad.
I'm assuming I know what rookies look like.
No,
So you think he's Sauce Gardner?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You just said it.
You're saying he's a trash can. You're saying
No,
he's the Jalen Rager of
I did not say that either. No, let's move on. Let's move on. Okay. So Xavier Howard played with Vic down in Miami. Now, there was a lot of conversation with the secondary. I doubt that this is a fit here. Okay. Okay. You know what? You said it this morning. Correct me if I'm wrong. They need maybe a little more depth back there at safety.
Maybe. Some people say they do.
Okay. Let's move on here. Yannick Ngakoue, edge rusher. You know, not a frontline guy, but do you agree? You need some depth.
Yeah, I like that.
At edge.
I like that because your young guys are going to play anyway. Bryce Huff's going to be your starter. I don't like Josh Sweat. I'm done with the dude. Now he's on a one-year deal. There's no way he has a long-term future here in Philadelphia. And he takes plays off. He's inconsistent as hell. I know he had the knee problem and stuff. He had a catastrophic injury. It's amazing what he's been able to do. But this is where I'm like, play the young guys. I would rather Nolan Smith struggle over there and get up to game speed in the NFL than watch Josh Sweat play 8 out of 16 games this year and play half okay in some of them. But yeah, no, I like an Ngakoue. I mean, he's a good player. He's a good depth piece. He's a guy that's more proven, and I like it because you don't have to start him. That's what I don't like about the Gilmore thing.
And you probably don't have to pay him a lot.
I know, but the difference between this and the cornerback position is you're not going to switch out cornerbacks on a play-to-play basis like you do edge rushers. Edge rushers come on and off the field. So you're going to be able to keep Ngakoue to 20 to 30% of the snaps, still get your young guys reps. No, don't overtask them, and everybody benefits. Cornerback is a different game, but yeah, Ngakoue, he'd be good. I mean, how old is he though?
31. I think he's up there.
He's getting up there. I mean, he's had some really good years.
But what I'm saying is he's not a frontline guy, Xander. He's a guy that he's a piece you can rotate with. Okay, he's. I think his best years were in Jacksonville. Okay, when he was down there in Jacksonville, he could be 33. He could be 33.
He's 29, actually.
Oh, he's 29?
29, and he just turned 29 in March. Yeah, so, yeah, he's still out there, which is a little interesting.
He's probably looking for the right opportunity, too. They want to see what – a lot of these guys that get down to this point, they want to see what happens in camp. Guys get hurt, because if a guy gets hurt, what happens? Your value goes up, Xander. So that's what they're waiting for.
I'll tell you what, though, Sills, he's been all over the yard, man. I mean, he was in Jacksonville, then he was on 2 teams, then he was on Minnesota and Baltimore, then he was on the Raiders, then he was on the Colts, then he was on the Bears. Like, I don't know.
But what are the numbers? I mean, what the last 5 years, what are his sack numbers?
2020, he was on 2 teams between Minnesota and Baltimore. He had 8 sacks, 5 in Minnesota.
I'll take that as a backup.
Yeah, 2021, he had 10 sacks, which is a nice year. He had a full game, 17 games played, which was great. I mean, 9.5 and 22.
I'll take
he
that.
Played 15 games. Last year he had 4. So a little bit of a drop off last year. But yeah, I mean, look, that's it. I like that. I'm good with that. I think that would be a good ad. He's a guy that clearly still had some in the tank, 2 years ago, maybe last year. It more looks like last year was a fluke than a trend. So I could go that. And like I said, he's not a guy you're going to have to rely on to be your starting edge. And if you don't get production out of him, you're screwed. He's a guy that adds depth and keeps good players in the field in all 3 downs. I like that for that reason.
What's Marshall saying here? No Doc Ways. Oh, no Doc Way sales. Okay. All right.
And
how about this one? I'm not a fan of this. I'm throwing some names out on guys that could help your roster that are available. I don't know what this guy. Look, I thought that this guy, he's 28 years old. I thought Jamal Adams was a good ball player. 2020, he was a Pro Bowler. But in the last 3 years,
trades in the history of the NFL.
But he in the last 22 games, he's played 22 games in 3 years. So that contract that he got from Seattle, when the Jets traded him, I think for 3 ones.
3 ones for a safety, and he never even played good. That is catastrophic.
I thought he had 1 year up there where he had 20 sacks.
Okay, 1 year. You
gave 1 year. No, they paid him. He was the highest paid.
That's a franchise-changing trade.
Yeah,
that's more than the Texans got for Deshaun Watson.
Absolutely, 3-1. That's what you gave up. The Dolphins did for Trey Lance.
Dude,
that's what the Niners gave up for Trey Lance.
Yeah,
for
yeah, and to their credit, they're lucky that they were able to
parachuted on a kid.
Well, I know, but even losing those assets, they're lucky their roster's as good as it is, because most teams need those first-round draft picks. They were able to skate by, which is a credit to their organization. I mean, they have a good organization, definitely, no questions asked about that. But yeah, I don't want Jamal Adams. I'm sorry, I have less than zero interest in Jamal Adams.
How about this one here? Now, this is an interesting one. Quan Alexander, I get it. Achilles injury a year ago in 23, but he was a staple for the Mike Tomlin defense when he played in Pittsburgh, and they released him. And I don't know what his health is right now. Now, a year ago, supposedly he hurt it. So that's usually a 9-month injury where you rehab it back from when he got hurt. So I don't know what that calendar date would look like. Would that be somebody that Howie would look at? Maybe, I don't know now, but as you get into the season or get into camp, and you're looking as you get into camp, you're not happy with what you got right now, would you be looking like, hey, man, is that somebody I'd be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a guy with a lot of experience. He's played a lot of games. I mean, I think he was a 4th-round pick way back in 2015. The concern with him is, 2022 is promising where he played 17 games. He had 69 tackles, 42 solo. He had a decent year in New York with the Jets. But if you look at the run, Dan, from 2018 to 2021, listen to this. 6 games played, 8 games played, 5 games played, 7 games played, 12 games played. And then last year, 9 games played. So he had the 1 year of 17 and 22, but 1 among 7 years. That's an anomaly. That's a guy.
I thought it was just 1 or 2. I didn't think it was a combination of 4 years like that.
4 or 5 years where he just missed so many games. The player is actually pretty good for anybody that knows Quan Alexander. He can play ball, but I don't know. And the other thing is
ability.
He just doesn't care about the linebacker. I mean, I do. I'd like to see him add to the position, but I just don't see him spending assets at a guy like that,
I got another guy here for you, and I looked at it. I do not know what happened between him and Robert Saleh, but here's a guy in Carl Lawson. He's the former Clemson edge rusher guy. Now get this, Xander. He only played 24% of the snaps last year. And he had 24 pressures. And he had 7 sacks.
He only played 6 games last year.
And he played and had how many sacks?
Last year, he had 0 sacks. He only had 6 games. The year before, he played 17 and had 7 sacks.
Yeah, that's the year I was looking at, not this last one where they what would you make of him? Being an edge, and how old is he? He can't be that. He got to be near 28 years old. He's got to be somewhere in there. And he's available.
95. So, yeah, he's probably 28.
Okay, so he's
29
28
years old, 29 years
Here's
old.
another guy you can play at an edge.
Yeah, I mean, hasn't been very productive in his career, Big Sills. I mean, really, just nothing really stands up to
So you like Yannick more?
Yeah, I would say Yannick over this guy. I mean, he had rookie year, he had 8.5 sacks, so he came on strong. After that, 1 sack, 5 sacks, 5.5, 7, 0. I mean, to go from 8.5 sacks your rookie year to 1 sack the following year. Now, he only played 7 games, but that's part of it too. I mean, just not that productive of a player. I don't think Howie would make a move for a guy like that.
I want you to listen to me on this one here because I heard you guys talking about the running back position. Now, I want to show you something here. How about putting like you did in 17 with Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount, and you have Dalvin Cook back there. And here, hang on. Why? He's had a better career than Barkley, and he's been 1 year. Last year was the only year he didn't have 1,000 yards. And the year before, he's had 5 straight 1,000-yard years. He's had 4 Pro Bowl years. You put him back there, not as the bell cow guy, but you have him back there kind of like duplicating what you did in 17, and he's kind of like your guy to go to give him a spell. Why not get this? Last year, he was on that shitty Jets situation.
And they didn't play him at all. I mean, he played 15 games and had 200
Well, they
yards.
like Breece Hall there a lot.
They did. Well, Breece, I mean, I know why. Breece
No, he's good. No.
Breece
And I
Hall's
get it.
playing.
I get it. But prior to that, Xander, he's a year removed from 1,100 yards.
Yeah, and he had 4 straight years. I mean, 1,100, 1,500, 1,100, 1,100. He was a productive player. My only problem with it is he too much like what we already got? Now, I don't know. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know the full extent of his skill set. I've watched the player. He's a very good player. He catches the ball well. He runs the ball well. But he's not a north to south runner, right?
I think he's not. Yes.
Overall, he's not.
But he doesn't run
Barkley,
the contact.
You got Barkley. You got Gainwell. You got Shipley. Like, dude, how many more guys?
Let me ask you this. If Kenny Gainwell was in Carolina with that O-line, would he make the team?
Kenny Gainwell sucks, dude.
Right.
Him.
I don't. What I'm saying about Cook is, like, everyone thought Jay Ajayi was done.
It's true.
He gets behind that O-line.
But the reason Jay Ajayi worked is because of the running back setup. Before they got Jay Ajayi, they traded for him.
Now, they are two different guys. Like Garrett Blount and Jay Ajayi are two different guys.
Let me finish. So they traded for him at the deadline. He came into a situation where LeGarrette Blount was your bell cow, and undrafted free agent Corey Clement, who was more of a versatile guy, but overall pretty north to south. He was a bruiser type of guy a little bit. Could catch the ball. He had to catch, obviously, in the Super Bowl that we won. It was him, and it was LeGarrette. Then you added a guy like Ajayi, who was a shifty runner, who was a total different look for the offense. And it worked very well. That's why I keep saying to John, what is our infatuation? Look, I'm okay if you like the style and you want to have one guy. But why do you have 3 running backs on your roster and they're all the same dude with different levels of skill set? Like, go and get me a guy that can run the ball between the tackles. You tell me every day, the Eagles tell me how amazing their offensive line is. Everybody and their mother wants to tell me. PFF wants to tell me. ESPN wants to tell me. Eagles want to tell me. NBC wants to tell me. JAKIB Sports Twitter wants to tell me. So get a damn running back to run behind your tackles. You got Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata. Nobody runs between the tackles. It drives me nuts. So, no, I don't want Dalvin Cook just for the reason that I would rather go and get a guy like LeGarrette Blount. Now, I don't know if there's somebody out there like that, but I'm just looking for that type of running back, and maybe it's never going to happen. So
I asked Frank Wright about what happened in 17. Jay Ajayi was a Frank Wright suggestion, how he went out, made the move for him. That, and get this, Doug signed off on it, and they went to Howie about it. But initially, that name was brought up from Frank. Frank wanted that kind of back because you know why? It kind of reminded him a little bit of Thurman Thomas, how his skill set was. He's not like Thurman, but he's kind of, his skill set was like it.
Yeah.
So that was a Frank
ball, man. But it's, it's guys like that, bro. It makes me nervous about Saquon. I don't want fans to jump on me because I'm excited for Saquon. But boy, it's crazy how you see running backs drop off in this league. I mean, Jay Ajayi was playing at a very high level when we traded for him. He was in Miami. Yep. Remember, they didn't want to pay him. He was playing great ball there.
Yeah, no, he was a runner down there.
A year or two later, he was out of the league.
Yep.
I mean, who's the guy I always think of in Atlanta? They paid huge money to Todd Gurley. I mean, they paid him that bag because he was the best running back in the league for a couple years.
They actually picked up that contract from the Rams, and Rams thing got carried over, and they extended it.
I know. And then, boom, out of the league. Who's the other guy? Le'Veon Bell. I mean, remember, he sat the year out. He wants the contract. And then he comes back. He's in nothing.
The Jets gave him 13.5, and then after that, he went.
I
think the Baltimore, he was gone.
Like these running backs, it doesn't go like this with the running backs. It goes like this. And it makes me nervous that, Saquon is on that second contract. And I know college is a different game. He touched the ball a lot at Penn State. He was the entire offense at Penn State. And that's a little bit, it's a little bit nerve-wracking for me, to be honest. That's why, I hope, is Gainwell a guy that can even take the load off him a little bit? Not in my eyes.
I don't see him as anything special. This
is a good point by Jack, and this is one of the reasons I love Ajayi. He says Ajayi left it all out there every play, cost him a bag because he was shot so early. It's true though, man. He left it on the field. He ran with vigor. I was a huge fan of him in that Super Bowl year when we traded for him, and I remember I was a freshman at Alabama at the time, and I watched obviously all that season from the school and from down there, and that was a special year. That really everything worked for us that year, man. Yeah, he's a bruiser big, but are they going to use him, bro? He's an undrafted guy. Look, if he's the guy, perfect. We don't need him to be out there for every play. If he's the guy, I'm good with it. I'm just not optimistic that our coaching staff is going to be able to use the guy, like they might want him. He was an undrafted free agent. Let's see what he could do. But you're right. He is that style of a back. He's a bruiser back. Kendall Milton he's talking about.
How about this one here, Xander? Because he kind of reminds me of the Garrett Blount. Would you be interested in somebody like spelling Saquon like a Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, I think, and Kareem Hunt has shown that he's pretty good in that second role when he went back to Cleveland. Remember, and he was the second to Nick Chubb. Now, it's again the same problem we just talked about. He is, but like Nick Chubb is a north to south between the tackles type of runner. That's his game. And then you add
Hunt caught passes early on when what's his name got
I know
there.
that's what I'm saying. Do we want another running back to catch his passes?
He's a big dude, though, man.
I know he is.
He's a big dude,
and he runs with a lot of vigor. It's fun to watch, but he would be good. He would somebody I would be willing to break that mold for and go for him. I think he would be a good back. I don't think they're going to go there though. I mean, they've already invested more resources at this position than they have in many years. So I doubt they go deeper, to be honest. That's why Big Marshall has a point here with the Bruiser. Maybe because he's already there and he's undrafted, they would go to him.
Here's Sean here. Landers Milton may be the guy. I live in Georgia. He ran between the tackles.
Yeah, he meant Kendall. I think he probably had some autocorrect. Yeah, Kendall Milton. That's him. Yeah. That's cool, Sean, down there in Georgia. I love when I hear where everybody's from. When people drop in, dude, Sills, we got people watching us from all over the country, all over the world, dude.
Bro, get this. We're well over 1,000 on Twitter right now.
Yeah, and they're watching from everywhere, man. It's cool. It's really, really cool thing. I love thinking about just that. I'm talking to people all over the world. It's funny. I feel like I know half these people. I never met them in my life, but I really feel like I know them. I talk to them every day.
What's really great is that they invest in us their time each and every single day.
Absolutely.
Because money's one thing, but people's time is more valuable than anything and any commodity that you have in your life, because that's something you can't get back. Money you can always go out and make again, but when you're talking about your time, you can't get it back. So it's a valued thing, obviously.
100% Big Sills. Well said.
So Cam Akers would be somebody that would be out, because that's a guy that's one of those people that kind of he's a pass catching guy. He's a cheap man's version potentially of Barkley. Now he played in that system though with Sean McVay. See, Xander, I happen to agree with you. I think they need more depth at running back, because you know why? My concern is Barkley's health, and I don't think Gainwell helps you.
I don't think he helps you. And Cam Akers is young, but he's been largely very unproductive in his career. I mean, he had 2 seasons where he eclipsed 500 yards and everything else.
Yeah, but in that offense, they throw the ball around the yard with that Sean McVay. They don't really run the ball a lot.
Yeah,
was he more of a pass catcher in that offense?
No, he had 100 yards catching. So it's weird. He must have had 2 bad injuries. I don't know the history of the player.
There was a year he was hurt. About 2 years ago.
2021, he only played 1 game.
Yeah,
and in 2023, he only played 1 game. Now, 2020, he had 13 games played. 22, he had 15 games played. Those were the 2 years he had decent numbers, 780 yards, and then 625. Last year, he played 6 games, 130 yards.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, just,
Right now, we're looking at guys right now where you don't have to give up any.
We're looking at scrap heap guys. I don't think so. I don't think he's going there. I don't think Howie's going there for the running backs.
So if you were going to look at somebody, you'd look at Kareem Hunt more than you would Dalvin Cook.
I like Kareem Hunt. I'd have to look at, what type of productivity he's had the last couple of years, but I like him. He's a good player.
And you like Yannick for an edge.
I think he'd be decent for the depth. I'd rather him, if you're talking about Brandon Graham as being depth, I think Yannick would be good depth as well.
We won't do, obviously, all 27, but do you have time for a little bit of these here with the 1 year?
Yeah, let's go. I got time.
I want to go thumbs up, thumbs down on the guy here. Okay. So there's going to be 27 Philadelphia Eagles that will be free agents in 2025. Devin White.
Just for the sake, though, before you start, how many of them are in the starting 22?
1, 2. You think Isaiah Rodgers starts?
I don't view him as a starting 22
you think Milton Williams starts?
It depends. I mean, if you're only putting 4 on the line and 3 back and well, I guess you would go 5 on the line and 2 backers. Yeah, he'd probably be a starter in that front.
Okay, 3. Do you think Micaiah Becton starts at right guard when the season starts?
Maybe.
Okay,
maybe.
So maybe 5, probably 4, right?
Yeah, 3.5.
Okay.
No, 3.
Right.
Probably 4.
So let's do this. Let's start with one of the starters. Devin White is on a 1-year contract. What do you think the odds of this guy being re-signed by Howie Roseman are?
Very, very, very slim. Basically none. Because if he performs, somebody's going to pay him bigger money than Howie was willing to go. And if he underperforms, then you're going to rotate him out like you have the last couple of years at the position. I think it's very unlikely we'll see Devin White here longer than a year. Look, I hope the guy can find it for him. Look, when I was a kid, and this is a random comment, but when I was a kid, my dad used to always say to me, athletes are people who play games for a living. The people are important. The games are not. Now, I'm a Philly fan, so the games are important too. But my point is, I hope he plays because I'd love to see the guy get paid. I love seeing guys have success. That's how I am. I love success. I like to watch guys have success. But to answer the question about him coming back to Philly, I don't think so. I hope he gets the bag somewhere else, though.
So, Brandon Graham, this is kind of like a ceremonial goodbye tour thing. You think he's productive this year? So he's out after this year. But that's not a massive loss because we're expecting this. But you think he's productive this year?
Brandon Graham, I think
for his reps, for his percentage of reps.
I do, because he's been decently productive for the type of reps he's gotten the last couple of years. I think he's going to have a little bit more of a chance actually this year look, you're on the way out. I mean, he's going to leave it out there, man. He's going to leave it on the field. He's a guy that plays with heart, leaves it all out there. Great guy, energy guy, high motor. I mean, not many people are moving like he is at 35 years old. I mean, look, I know that age is scary in this league, but with BG, I feel a little bit better about it. I think he has a productive year. I do. I think he goes out on a good note. Love BG. I think he'll have a place here in Philadelphia. He'll never have to buy a meal in Philly again for as long as he lives. I think he's one of those guys. Remember, strip sack Tom Brady, my friend.
Hey, no, there's no doubt this guy will be wearing a green jacket one day for sure. Zach Bond, linebacker, 1-year contract, seems to be somebody that Vic Fangio really likes. Could this be a guy that could be the next version of TJ Edwards?
Maybe. No, because that's not his style. He's not a traditional middle linebacker. He's not a Mike. I mean, if anything, I think they might view him as another edge option or a pass rushing option. But you know, I'm going to take off my Eagle glasses for a second. Who? Are we just so bad at linebacker that we're now talking ourselves into the Zach Bonds of the world?
I guess so. No, I'm doing what I
don't want to go there. I'm taking the glasses off.
Lowering it.
Zach Bond, I hope you're great. I'm not optimistic you're going to be great, brother.
What's the role of Vontae Maddox? Is there some place in this organization or the Eagles? They brought him. You know what, Xander?
Yeah.
They brought him back. They think something of him.
Well, he's a locker room guy. He's a great energy guy. He's one of those happy-go-luckier type of dudes. Can't stay on the field. I mean, look, he's been great. He when he plays, he's actually one of the better slot corners in the NFL. I mean, he's played that position at a very, very high level, but the guy just can't stay healthy. He can't stay healthy, and now, when you see what's happened at the corner position, when you see the youth movement that's taken place, I don't see him being here much longer. I think the guys that they made, the Isaiah Rodgers, the Cooper, I think in a way they were replacements for him. So I don't see him being here much longer than this year.
I'm going to give you some breaking news. I've been told that Milton Williams and the Eagles are having a conversation about extension.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
I don't know what the number is. I don't know how many years it is, but there is conversation and there is interest between both sides staying in Philadelphia. Now, to me, it's going to come down to his role. And if I were Howie, I would try to define what I look at him as. But here's the issue. When they offer you a contract prior to the season and you've been in a certain role, that's how most organizations see you, Xander. And Milton Williams may see himself in a different role because he hasn't been in that starter role where he's going to be more leaned on this year. So you have to make a choice. Do I take less money, stay with the sure thing, or do I gamble, go into the season, talk to them, and try to redefine what and how the league looks at me? So I think it's a bigger gamble for him because if he doesn't pan into being the guy that he thinks he is, and the Eagles offer him something, Eagles can come back with lesser money and say, here's our contract here, because that's kind of what they did with Hassan here a little bit. So Milton Williams, this is a precarious situation here for him and the Eagles. I'd like to know how you think about how they look at him and if he's part of the future.
You know, I don't have any information to back this. This is an opinion or at least just my perspective on the situation. I don't think him not getting his deal done is from the Eagles side.
Yeah,
I think it's more of the player saying, Fletcher Cox retired.
Player
I'm
agent.
going to have a bigger role this year. I have a chance to go out and really make a lot of money, whether it might be here in Philly, it might be somewhere else, and I might bet on myself. Now, the Eagles, because the funny thing about Milton is he's like the textbook player that Howie gets ahead of and signs. Like textbook, 3rd-round draft pick, showing some promise, can get him at a great price before, he gets that sky-high production with a lot of snaps. That's like Howie 101. That's like Howie's wheelhouse. And the fact that they didn't get it done, I think shows you that Milton's probably betting on himself, which I got no problem with. I mean,
None.
Yeah, I mean, go for it, my friend. I think he's right. I think he's making the right decision because he's going to get more playing time this year. But I think the Eagles
if he hits the open market, he's
now. Here's my concern with it. Not concern, but here's my question from the Eagles' perspective. And Howie's good enough, I think, to get around this. But you do have two upcoming first-rounders at the defensive tackle position. Now, I know Jordan's not really a defensive tackle. He's a nose. It's a little different. But for the sake of the conversation, you do have two guys that are probably about to make buku bucks. Are they hesitant to pay Milton as the 3rd guy?
You're not paying a guy 15 and then the next two guys 20.
And that's now if they could get him for 8-9 for a couple years, they might do it because you have a couple years till you pay Jalen. You have maybe even 2 years till you pay Jordan. Now they might jump ahead of Jordan and try and extend him this year, do what they did with Devontae. But remember, they do have the 5th-year options. The Eagles don't use them much, but they might use them. It's interesting to think about. I'd like to see him back, though. I think he's a guy that I have a weird feeling about him that he's going to take off. Like he's a guy that looks like he has grown into his NFL body.
I like him.
Yeah, I mean, remember when he got drafted, he was undersized. I think he played at was it Louisiana Tech or I forget what some small school. I can't. Let me look it up.
It wasn't a Power 5.
No, it was not a Power 5. But he's a guy that Louisiana Tech. That was right. I
good program.
I like him a lot, man. I'd like to see him get it done. I just don't think they're going to go there because he probably is going to want more than they're willing to give him right now, and that's probably what's stalling that conversation out.
Isaiah Rodgers. Do the Eagles want him back?
I think so because it adds into the guy you asked me about earlier. You ask about Avonte Maddox, and I say no. Well, you're going to have to keep some people in the room. Now, you have Cooper, you have Quinion, you have Keeley. Even maybe they could sneak Eli Ricks, a guy like that, or a Josh Jobe into the back end of the roster. Those are guys that are kind of ascending. They're better special teams players. I think they want him here, though. I think he's shown good enough promise, or at least they think that they'll try and get the deal done. But the problem with him is I think Howie's going to want him to play ball on the Howie side of things. And he might want more money than Howie's going to be willing to give him. And that might be what brings that to a head. But we'll see. I mean, he's a guy that got suspended, so he didn't play for a year, didn't see any money for a year. Got picked up on a minimum contract here in Philly. He's only making $1 million. So he's probably a guy that wants to capitalize, and that could also prevent it, right? I mean, this isn't like a guy that was drafted in the 1st round. He's been making major money since he's been in the league. So he's probably looking for that bag, and I can't blame him for that. So maybe. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how he plays.
You think this is the final year of Kenny Gainwell?
I hope. Shit, I'm done with the guy, man. I really am. I mean, one, we don't even use him for what he's good for. He played a lot of receiver in college. Really been underwhelming. I mean, I don't know why. Like, there was times, even the last 2 years, where he would come on the field and you're like, I mean, I don't love Miles Sanders, but like, I'd rather have him out there than Kenny Gainwell.
He's 1,300-yard back.
Right. And then you have DeAndre Swift, same thing. You're like, what? I'd rather have DeAndre Swift in there. I'm just not a Kenny Gainwell guy. Look, if you guys are, that's fine. I'm not a Kenny Gainwell guy. I hope he's gone. I'd rather see a different style of back come here to complement Saquon Barkley. End of sentence.
Finally here, we'll not do them all. What are they going to do with Becton? How are they going to deal with him? Because any type of success, Xander, there's not a chance in hell you're bringing him back unless Becton decides to give you a haircut and say, and they go like this, we're going to sign you to a contract. And they could do it like this. They could begin to make the transition, especially if he shows the promise that he has with his ability. Remember, with Becton, it's been his availability more so than anything else. But this guy is an earth mover. He is a guy that you would want to invest in. And if he shows Jeff Stoutland that this guy can play multiple positions, he's willing to do what they take, I might sign him on one of those Devontae Smith type deals where you have escalator contracts where you pay this guy $60 million, but you started out 9, 10, 12. And then before you know it, in the third year, when Lane's getting ready to scoot out of town, you make that transition.
Yeah.
It jumps to $16 million, and you move him over to right tackle, and you have a seamless transition moving over to the right tackle position. I think you got a really good opportunity here. Now, the player's got to perform, and he's got to stay healthy. He's so young still. You know,
he's very young.
He came out of Louisville.
25.
I think
he's 25 years old, yeah.
He's 25 years old, man.
Yeah.
Do you think the Eagles want to have him part of the future? He's even said he wants to be part of the future.
Yeah, so the interesting part of him is the Eagles value the offensive line more than they value any other place on the entire roster. And that's where it's like, if he shows anything this year, whether it's a depth piece or a future starter, I would anticipate the Eagles go to the table and they get it done. I don't know if that's how it's going to play out. He's remember, he was a first-round draft pick that kind of underperformed. I mean, teams don't really just let first-round tackles go unless they're
walk out the building. They didn't even move them for a piece.
Exactly, and that's my fear with them. But I would say I would lean they're gonna extend him because the value they put at the line, his versatility, and you're going to need a swing tackle, right? I mean, you're going to need a backup even if you don't lose Lane in the next couple of years. So I would say extend on him.
What you said is the most important. They value the position.
Yeah.
And which means monetary. Most money, look at where Xander, at the end of the day, what's the number one skill set position that they spend the most money on?
Yep.
It's the O-line because there's 5 of them. You know what I mean? Hey, you can have your 2 wide receivers. They don't spend a ton of the rest of the money when it comes to the other 4 guys.
Yeah, we have a $80 million line? $90 million?
Well, you got $18 million with Malata. You got $20 million with Landon. You got probably $2 million with Juergens or 1.5.
Yeah, but that's going to go up. That's a rookie contract. Yeah, I mean that's
rookie
a rookie
deal. Same with Steen on the right side if they go with him, and you got another $20 million deal on the right side with Landon. Now, again,
yeah, I mean, if you just go back to last year, because we had Kelsey, right? So you didn't have the rookie contract.
You had $15 million in the middle.
Yeah, so you're up. I mean, you're north of $60 million on what you're paying that offensive line by a long shot.
For 5 guys.
For 5 guys, they like that offensive lineman, and I love them for it. I think it's one of the biggest things. Now sign a damn running back to run behind him, for fuck's sake.
This is going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out here. Xander, absolutely great stuff. Guys, please hit the like button. Do not forget to check out the morning show, Birds 365. Xander, on Twitter. How about this, Xander? On Twitter, over 1,000. Facebook, we're killing it. Look at that Twitter, man. We're over 1,000.
What's going on Twitter today, man?
I don't know, man. People are watching us on Twitter today. Our YouTube channel as well. Guys, please hit the like button. Xander, great stuff. Don't forget to catch him this morning, folks. We really appreciate it. Xander, great stuff, brother.
Thank you, Sills. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Appreciate y'all.
You got it. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Hey, heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please hit the like button. We appreciate you guys so much for hanging around 135. Maybe we can get another 60 when it comes to likes. Killing it over on Twitter right now. Over 1,200 people are watching the program. Thank you guys on all of our platforms when it comes to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of that. Facebook, thank you guys so much for checking us out each and every single day. You guys have made the show what we love the most here, and that is that you guys engage with us here. Real quick, I saw Mike Gundy, the head coach of Oklahoma State, at the Big 12 media day, and he was talking about his running back, Ole Gordon, who got arrested for DUI. And he made a comment. He goes, I'm not going to suspend a kid because I've done that about 1,000 times myself. He had a 1.0 blood level, I think. 0.8 is when you're impaired and you get a DUI. And Mike said that he's done it. And, of course, the woke media has taken it where this guy, instead of just throwing out a random comment to try to make it look like he's covering for his player. So this guy's insinuating that he's been drunk over 1,000 times behind the wheel. Of course, that's not true. You don't know. I don't know. And he was using it as a broad stroke to say, kid made a mistake. Nobody, and you got off. He basically tried to paint it that way. He got off easy by not hurting anybody. He got off easy. He got off easy. Okay? He did. He got off easy and lucky. Okay? No. And Xander says it was a stupid comment. Okay. Didn't land where you wanted it to land. Okay. It was a stupid comment by Mike Gundy. But I think what he meant to look at his player and have a conversation with him. Kid, you got off lucky. Was it going to land right for the media? No. Did it land wrong completely? Sure. But I think his intention was try to teach the kid a lesson too by going, hey, you got off lucky, guy. Next time you're going to prison, because if you kill somebody, God forbid, it's over. It's over. You got so much to live for in your life. You got so much. What does Nick Saban say? There was a great thing that Nick Saban had years ago. Somebody was castrating one of his ex-players. He goes, I think it was a kid that played at Michigan State for him and got into a really bad mess up there at Michigan State. You know what Nick did? I think it may have been a DUI or something. I don't know. Could have been a domestic violence thing. I don't remember the exact situation to that case. But you know what I remember Nick saying? You know, man, you media guys, what you want to do is you want to take a stake that a 15, 18-year-old kid makes, and you want to indict him on that by not at least giving him an opportunity to dig himself out of the hole. That kid went on to become productive. He runs a Fortune 500 company now. He was one of the more productive guys for me, and he was a team leader for me. But what you wanted me to do was throw him off the team, and I wasn't going to do that. Okay? He wasn't going to do that. Go back and watch that tape. Guy makes a mistake in life, especially young. Hey, could that be a catastrophic? Murder somebody? Kill somebody? The wide receiver for the Raiders, the guy that played at Alabama, he's in jail right now. That's an example. The former receiver for the Steelers that killed that guy on the causeway down in Miami. With the kid that died last week in the NFL, and now this kid drunk behind the wheel, somebody's got to grab those kids and hold them accountable. What's that mean, disciple? What's accountable mean? Throw him off the team? And his opportunity at potentially bettering his life? What do you want to do to him? As Nick Saban would say, what do you think is proper punishment for that? Taking his opportunity away? What, disciple, what would you do? I agree, Steve. We all do dumb shit as kids. It's not an excuse. It's reality. Disciple, what do you want to do? Throw him off the team? Send him back to where he was? Let him try to figure his life out? Teach him a lesson? What are you trying to do? Mike Gundy, the comment was dumb. What he was trying to do wasn't. But it landed wrong. There's where words got in the way. How would I handle it if I was the head coach? I would probably handle it the same way that Bob Stoops handled Joe Mixon when he broke that girl's jaw. I'm going to suspend your ass for quite a bit of time here. You ain't going nowhere. We're going to learn from this together. And I'm going to help you. We're going to take the game away from you a little bit. Do I think he should be suspended? Yeah. I think when you take the game away from somebody, it hurts. When you find people that don't hurt, take the game away. Mike's comments were taken way out of proportion. Were they dumb? Yes. Were they inappropriate? Yeah. Because normal people are not going to dissect that and go, that's just a coach talking about, hey, I was thousand times behind the wheel. I've done that. Do I really believe Mike Gundy's been behind the wheel 1,000 times? No, I don't. Not the kind of success that he's had. T-Bone Pickens handpicked that guy. It's not funny. It's a sad situation. And you do have to, as a head coach, be a better communicator with the public and what you're doing. That's why Nick doesn't give the media shit. And he calls you rat poison. But Nick had a guy. He didn't throw him off his team. Guy made a mistake. Nick said, see if we can work through this. And he did. I think playing for Nick Saban would have been awesome. You know why? If you work hard, he's going to give you every opportunity to be a star. He's going to give you every opportunity to play. And that guy doesn't have depth charts. I don't believe in depth charts at Alabama. If you're good, you're going to play that week. If the other guy outplays you and outpractices, he's playing. That's so great. I wish life was like that. It's funny in the locker room compared to life. They're so far removed from one another. because you're rewarded by how well you practice and perform and how attentive you are. You're rewarded on production. In life, you're not. In a locker room like Saban's, you're rewarded by your hard work. Plain and simple. Your talent and hard work get you where you want to go. That's why Nick left the game, because it's talent, hard work, and now it's nil. And it's polluted that. Now, some would say, well, Gundy's only doing this because the guy's an All-American running back. Yeah, probably. Does he get the latitude? Yeah. Were Gundy's, one more time, Gundy's comments, were they wrong? Stupid, misplaced, poor communicating. He's had numerous times in his career where he's done that. That's Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy says stupid shit. There's a litany of highlights of him saying stupid shit. I mean, so you kind of know he's not the greatest media communicator. But I get what he's trying to do. Again, DUI is anything to play with. I told you, I don't drive and I don't drink and drive. I just do not do that. I just don't. Okay. Jalen Carter situation. Absolutely, man. At the end of the day, that drive should already, years ago, people had second chances. Today, they want to cancel you. I think everybody deserves an opportunity within reason. I think every situation's different. Kid makes a mistake, has 3-4 beers during the holidays, gets in his car, cop pulls him over. I mean, is that a mistake? How about misjudgment? Hey, you could be held accountable for misjudgment too. Okay? Learning from mistakes is important. Habitual offender is the opposite of that. Correct, Jalen. Now, if this guy goes out next week and he gets pulled over again for DUI, he's gone. You've used up your lifeline at my program. You don't get another one. And I don't care who you are, because I'm not going to have a guy kill somebody on my program. If you're Lawrence Taylor, that's not going to happen. I'm not putting in jeopardy the other 84 guys on my team. Just not. I would take the game away from him a little bit, though. I would take the game away. And people are going like this to Mike Gundy. What a dumb comment. Okay. You think he has the kid's best interest at heart? Or does that matter to you? Hit the like button. I brought this up earlier. I think he does have the best interest at heart. Yeah, I mean, Xander's right. Two things can be right. Stupid, Mike. Don't fucking say that shit. You look like you're an alcoholic, and you make the program look like you don't give a shit about the kid's betterment. Because you know what you have? You have people in the world of life that are going to take and dissect every comment that you make, no matter what it is, right or wrong, and they're going to put a narrative out there to make the program look bad, you look bad, and the kid you're supposed to be disciplined and look bad. Totally true, Xander. But at the end of the day, does the guy have the kid's best interest at heart? He does. But people don't think things out any longer. They react, then overreact. You've got to come from a place where he's coming from. Does he mean well? Versus did he say the things he needed to say? No, yes. Mason says, hey, man, I've been watching your channel for the last couple months now, and you definitely helped me think more in depth and not jump to the highest. What's your opinion on Brandon Ayuk thing? Messiah, thank you very much. That is a well thought out, and I hope that that's the kind of things that people look at when they watch my show about rushing to judgment. I think Brandon Ayuk thinks he's a better ball player than he is on a team that doesn't really need him. I think he's good. But I think that with a guy like Kyle Shanahan, they drafted a tight end they drafted a wide receiver for a reason because they think he's replaceable. And they knew they were going to replace him. They're either going to replace Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. And if I had to keep one or the other, I might keep Ayuk. You know why? Because maybe I can get him at the 18-4. That you have an average salary with Devontae. I think he's a good ball player. I do. I think he's a really good ball player. Is he Devontae Smith? No. Is he Devontae Adams? No. Here, let me give you a point too, Messiah. There's now a conversation going on in Miami that the Dolphins are contemplating trading Tyreek Hill to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Tyreek Hill is so important to the success of the Miami Dolphins, why would this be his third team in 4 years? Can you tell me that? If these wide receivers are so important, okay? If they're so important, why are they being dealt like this? Right? So, yes. One of my favorites. I definitely get smarter watching this show compared to the fireside chats they have at the NovaCare Center. Senor, that's kind, man. By the way, we don't always see eye to eye. That's great. If they're not important, why do they get paid so much? Right. I don't know. So, hey, Senor, why do you pay them and then trade them? If they're so important, why do you get rid of them? It's really, it contradicts it, doesn't it? It contradicts it. You pay them a lot, but you move them a lot. Thank you very much, Coach. Yeah, I guess so. It's just easier to get wide receivers nowadays, proven and rookies and that are very good. How about this, Messiah? There's a reason why that the NFL draft is littered with prospects, especially coming up this year. Last year is not anything short of what they had with a bunch of guys going into the draft. There's no coincidence that all these kids that are coming into the National Football League are pretty much polished and ready to go. That guy, Malik Neighbors, I can't wait to see. Now, I don't know what Daniel Jones is going to be, the guy to get him the football in New York. But, I mean, a lot of these wide receivers, the kid Roma from Washington, I think is going to be great. Fans got to stop overhyping these wide receivers. Yeah, they bring you nothing. They bring you nothing, man. These big money wideouts bring you nothing. You know, can I tell you what I look at when I look at the Eagles? Honestly, I see Dream Team too. Unless it pays off, it's Dream Team too. Right? How about this? Let's be fair here. Because 24, we don't know. Would this be fair to say 2023 was Dream Team 2? Would you agree? Would you say 2023 was Dream Team 2? No, Forrest. 2022 was Dream Team 2.0. It just worked out that it was not 2022, 2.0, 23. Didn't work out. The guy I love to hate. Big sells. Look at this right here, Xander. This should be a shirt. This should be a t-shirt. The guy I love to hate. Big sells. Done. No, I definitely been saying for a fact that if you don't win a Super Bowl, in the next 2 years, it's overhyped, and I'm going to stand for this roster being so overpaid. Yeah. Got to pay out, man. You got to pay out. You got to plan out, and you got to. It's got to pay off. All that money they have, and you can't call an Uber like Ruggs. I Suplex. I know. I get it. You think AJ's worth $32 million? No. No. Not on my team. I'm putting all my money in the quarterback and the O-line. And the rest are going to be plugins. Like they have been in New England and like they have been in Kansas City. And like they have been in Baltimore. I'm not plugging tight ends and maybe a tight end, but I'm not paying 2 wide receivers $25 million. No fucking way. Crazy for what? If you don't win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, those contracts are horse shit. It would be the most overrated era in Eagle history that you got to 1 and you didn't get to any more. In the next 5 years, since 2022, 23 is in the books. So far, 2 years, you've gotten to a Super Bowl and lost. Last year, you were humiliated by the Bucs. So far, it's kind of worked out. But you weren't paying him $30 million. You're paying him 25, and you weren't paying Devontae. Well, you've upped the stakes now. You don't make it to a Super Bowl this year and win it, there's 3 years that it didn't pay off. And if the next 5 years you don't win one, it was the most overrated and overvalued era in Eagle history. Well, we hung around at a massive cost. At a massive cost. They had a Reed era when they got to 5 NFC championship games and 1 Super Bowl and never won it at all. Hey, Slagger, they ain't spending the money like they did on Andy Reid. What wide receivers are you buying? You paid for 1, Owens. The rest of them? Quarterback carried that football team. That was McNabb and Westbrook. Are you trying to tell me this is the most talented offense that the Eagles have had ever? Ever. Ever. Not even the 17 team is close to what you're doing here. You got top 3 players at every single position just about. Shields, do you think the Eagles move on from Jalen in the next 5 years? Let's wait for that conversation. I said Owen Slagger. Let's wait for that one in January. Twist goes 2 sides of the ball, Sills. Stop it. I know that. That's why you're not a Super Bowl contender this year. I know that. Suplex says that the 17 team was smoke and mirrors. No, it was more balanced. You had some pretty good talented veteran leadership like you had in 22. The common denominator between the 17 and 22 team, what'd you have on defense? You had veteran leadership and veteran ball players that had been to Super Bowls and had been in Super Bowls. Like Chris Long on defense. You had guys like Hardgrave who had been veterans and Ndamukong Suh. Get this. So you had Ndamukong Suh and you had Fletcher Cox on 22 playing interior for you in your defensive line. Do you understand that you had 2 of the 3 most dominant defensive tackles in the last 15 years playing on your football team in Suh and Fletcher Cox? You ain't got that. Nowhere remotely close to that. And you were asking Sue not to be the dominant force he was in Detroit, Los Angeles, or in Miami even. You were asking him just to play the run. You didn't ask him to do the things he did in Detroit. '22 team destroys a 17 team. No way. They'll run circles around that 22 team. You know why? You couldn't get out of your own way compared to Doug Peterson, Jim Schwartz, Frank Reich, and the rest of that coaching staff with Jeff Stoutland and all them guys on that staff. You fucking get your shit thrown into dirt when it came to coaching. They'd run circles around you. They outcoached Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and you think they're not going to outcoach Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, and Nick Siri whiny? Really? Okay. Okay. You're right. That coaching staff wouldn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do in the second half against Reed. What are you, crazy? Yeah, they would have killed Foles. Yeah, like you mean like the Patriots did. Winners of 6 Super Bowls. Blood and Ajayi would destroy Hargrave. Yeah, and you guys were 16th in rush defense. And get this. You know what was great about that team too? Lose your left tackle. Use your starting linebacker. Lose your MVP quarterback. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. You lose a wide receiver like A.J. Brown, you get destroyed by the Bucs. You get destroyed. Bruce goes 17 had players with heart and veteran leadership. Forrest goes 17 were true underdogs and dealt with real adversity. 22 had an easier ride to the Super Bowl. And again, it comes down to leadership and coaching. Okay? Yeah. Absolutely. Seals, what's up with Caleb Williams not signing his rookie contract? I don't know. I don't think it matters. I never really thought much of him. Name me one thing he did in college. Can you name me a significant game that he won? Can you name me a moment where you remember? He couldn't beat Utah. He couldn't beat Oregon. I mean, what did he do at OU? Everyone keeps going. Caleb Williams looks like the next Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, does that guy look like that kind of talent? Right? I don't get it there. Let me go back to one comment that I made I made this with Mark Holmes. And this goes into Kellen Moore's importance this year. By the way, guys, please hit the like button. Appreciate it. What's that? My personal opinion, I think Caleb is going to be a bust. I agree. I think the guy in Washington is going to be outstanding. Jalen Daniels. I like his journey. I like who he is. Can you imagine if you're Kellen Moore this year, how much is riding on your ability to save Nick Sirianni's job? He's got to save the head coach's job and Jalen's future. Why don't you just name him the head coach? Why should a coordinator have to save the head coach's job? Because if he does, I would interview him and seriously consider him my next head coach. Why is that responsibility put on him to save Nick's job? You couldn't find a coordinator in the NFL right now or a head coach that doesn't have his own fate in his own hands. Nick is the only head coach. Even Mike McCarthy has his own fate in his hands. Nick is the only head coach that doesn't have his own faith in his own hands. Do you realize that? Robert Saleh has his own fate in his hands. He's the D coordinator, so to speak, pseudo. Name me a place. John Harbaugh picks all his coaches. Tomlin the same. They all have their own fate in their hands. Nick has no fate of what is going to happen this year. He's got to rely on Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts to save his job. Hey, Ruiz, you are under a false pretense, and anybody telling you that Nick has the same power over his team that Nick has, you're way off base. He makes every single assistant coaching hire, and he's involved in the personnel when it comes to drafting. Mike Tomlin, same with John Harbaugh. They are 100% involved. Nick has no say in his assistants. He had no say now. Let's pretend he didn't have it until this last. He had no say now. I mean, Tomlin has his own fate in his hands. But they put that on that coordinator. All right. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
I have my own ideas why they have now flag football in the Olympic Games. Politics. Gender identity. I like what Joe Burrow said, though. I'd love to see the NFL players get an opportunity to play in that. See what that thing would look like. Joe Burrow wants to play in it. Can you imagine that? You get a chance to be an Olympian playing flag football. Why not? You play flag football now. I mean, you don't get a chance to hit anybody, right? You get a right. You don't really get a chance to hit anybody. It's totally there for politics, though. You want to try to get rid of wrestling, but you want to put, I better be careful, flag football in. Okay? Right? Laurie at least spends money to try to make us better. Twizzy does. Totally give it to him. Totally do. He wants to be better, and I completely agree. Yep, Burrow wants hey, he wants to smoke with his LSU wideouts. I like Joe Burrow. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan, man. He's up 17 games this year. I think they're in the AFC Championship game. Okay, I do. Sills, what do you think of Burrow's proposal of 2 bye weeks? I think that's going to be a given. You see that the National Football League, Jeffrey Lurie got stroked a check. By the way, this has nothing to do with the salary cap. But because of revenues, remember, the TV contracts, they cut the salary cap checks. That's where they get that money from, pure revenue alone, from domestic revenue. Jeffrey Lurie, because of the great Eagle fans and you building him that stadium, will generate this year $405 million. Man, you made his life good. This guy makes almost $500 million a year on 10 games in Philly. You talk about wealth enhancement program. You got the NBA wanting to sell the Celtics. Who in the right mind would ever want to sell a team that you're making $500 million for hosting 10 games, 2 preseason and home games in the stadium you built? Man, what a get over. It's the greatest financial wealth program in the history since the Magellan Fund. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. All right, I appreciate it. Mark, you were great. Thank you, Mark Holmes. Thank you so much. Time for another yacht, right, Bruce? The yachtsman will be out looking for another yacht come January. How you doing? Yeah, all good. Big Joe, Xander, thank you very much. Thank all of you. Please hit the like button on the way out the door. We thank you again, and we shall see you on the flip side.